Council. I would like to extend a special welcome to our two new members, ladies, if you will be upstanding. Councillors Amanda Beresford and Councillor Jill Whitmore, and congratulate you both on your election to this council. I'd also like to welcome our Chief Executive, Mr. Gordon Moult, to his first full council meeting this evening. And finally, to welcome back Mr. John Tradewell from Staffordshire County Council, who is standing in for the Monty Austin, Mr. Anthony Harold, this evening. I would also like to welcome all the members of the public and the press who have joined us tonight as well. And members, if it's that warm and uncomfortable, you may remove your jackets if you wish. Before we begin, ladies and gentlemen, I have to go over the usual housekeeping rules. There are no fire drills planned for this evening, so if the fire alarm does sound, please leave the building by the nearest exit and assemble in the Queen's Garden in the front of the building. Please do not re-enter the building until you are advised to do so. Also, I'd like to remind members of protocols around speaking at this meeting. No member should speak unless invited to do so by myself. If you wish to speak, please could I ask you raise your hands high until you have been acknowledged. Please remember all members in the room use their microphones whenever they speak, as without them, anyone watching online will not be able to hear you. Use the microphones, please press the button in the front and centre when invited to speak and wait for a moment until the light on your microphone comes on. Please remember to turn off the microphone once you have finished. Members, in the interest of managing this meeting, please do not approach anyone seated at the top table for advice without first getting agreement from myself. Should you wish to do so, please raise your hand high. I would also ask at the end of this meeting to make sure you take all your belongings and waste with you. Thank you. We'll now commence the business for this evening, and the first agenda item is apologies. I received one apology from on behalf of Councillor Beeston. Do we have any further apologies at all? Councillor Jones?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Apologies from Councillor Brockie and Councillor Wright.
Thank you, Councillor Jones. We can then move on to item 2, which is a declaration of interest. Are there any declarations of interest, any members or officers in relation to any item contained in the special meeting agenda? So we can then move on to item 3, which is the minutes of the last meeting. And members, agenda item 3, members, is to approve the minutes of the meeting held on the 15th of May 2024. You will find these minutes on pages 5 to 9 of your agenda. Can these minutes please be agreed? Really, Councillor Turk. All in favour of that? Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. Item 4, which is the Mayor's announcements. I have no official announcements to make this evening, as my agenda is also freely available public information online. And now we come to the first substantive item of business on this agenda, which is item 5. A copy of this report can be found on pages 11 to 23 of your agenda, and there are copies of the local plan in the room for members to use as needed. An amendment to this motion has been proposed by Councillor David Jones and seconded by Councillor Fox Hewitt. A copy has been tabled this evening and can be found on pages 25 to 28 of your electronic agenda. We will hear first from the proposer and seconder of the original motion, and then the proposer and seconder of the amendment will be invited to speak. Councillor Fear, would you like to speak on your motion, please?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. We come this evening to the next stage of safeguarding this borough by developing its new local plan. Something which needs to be done with due celerity, as without such a plan, we remain vulnerable to predatory development on the one hand, and on the other, of course, also vulnerable to having a plan written for us by Whitehall, with which we will have nothing to do at all. It's very important to be aware of precisely what the vote this evening is about. And I fear, having read the Labour amendment that has been tabled, that group perhaps is not quite so aware. We are here to approve that the draft local plan, itself a product of the previous Reg 18 consultation, is sent out for consultation for a further 8 weeks, and that it is sent out with a suite of supporting documents. As with our previous consultations, this proposed consultation will be 1/3 longer than is required by national legislation, showing this council's commitment to engaging with the community. In short, Mr. Mayor, tonight is certainly not the end of the local plan process. It is not even the beginning of its end. Rather, it is the end of its beginning. Now, the primary document concerned in the proposed consultation is, of course, the draft local plan, which I've no doubt you have read closely. Is this suitable for consultation? As you know, Mr. Mayor, it is set out section by section, and each section is followed by a large amount of supporting information, allowing the reasoning of the policy section to be followed easily. This form is clear and it is reader friendly. Along with the draft plan, we are asking that a suite of supporting technical commission documents are also made available. These documents will allow anyone to look in further depth at the supporting information which is already found embodied within the plan section by section. These documents are, if you like, a series of detailed footnotes to the footnotes. I note that at neither the all-member online briefing about the draft local plan held on the 8th of July, nor at the special scrutiny meeting held a little later on the 11th of July, did any member raise the question of requiring further supplementary reports in order to be able to read or analyse the draft local plan. Notwithstanding this, technical data is now available, and if in its consideration a material impact on the plan arises, as the recommendations to the motion point out, the plan would then be brought back to this chamber for further debate. If that is not the case, the draft plan, and I would like to stress, Mr. Mayor, along with the verbatim and unredacted comments made upon it by the public, and indeed members of this council, if they so wish to contribute, will be sent to an independent planning inspector. And it is this planning inspector who alone has the final say on whether the plan is sound, and indeed who can require it to be changed. However, throughout the genesis of this plan, we have worked with the Planning Advisory Service, we have worked with the Planning Inspectorate, and a barrister at sight of the plan. All their comments have been positive, and so I am hopeful of a good outcome. By introducing unnecessary delay, we only leave the borough open to a longer period of vulnerability from predatory development. Timeliness in action will also demonstrate to our new government, whose eagerness to encourage development is manifest to all, that this borough is not indulging in theatrical delaying tactics which are bound to attract its ire. We must remember, as things are, if we do not have a plan lodged by June next year, we will have to start all over again from the beginning, with all the consequent long-term threats to our green spaces that entails. And we may well have a plan simply written for us. The draft plan is, in my opinion, a solid plan. It provides the borough with a clear, deliverable housing target, as required by the present government, formulated by the standard methodology, as recommended by the NPPF. Its site allocations mean that we provide clarity to developers as to where, and indeed where not, we wish development to take place. One site is currently subject to an appeal decision. We must, of course, be aware that there is important difference between plan making and a specific application, but the council will, of course, be defending the decision of its planning committee. The draft plan requires developers, amongst other things, to build up to 30% of affordable homes, to respect our local heritage, to think about the health impacts of development, and to increase biodiversity. It defends public green spaces and will create a third country park, which I have no doubt will be just as successful as those at Silverdale and Apedale. It sets out a vision to ensure that there are vibrant and healthy shops in the borough, and yes, also to encourage new quality jobs. Mr. Mayor, St. Augustine, as a youth, prayed to God to make him pure, but not just yet. In his confessions, where he records this, he knew and acknowledges that this was simply a delaying tactic. This is a solid plan. Safeguards are in place that in the unlikely event of an unforeseen material factor emerging, that this will be taken into account. However, the time to protect our borough is not tomorrow, which never comes, of course. It's not in a fortnight's time, or heaven forfend, next year. It is now, and therefore I move the motion.
Yeah. Councillor Fear, Councillor Simon Taken, would you like to second the motion?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Yes, I'd like to second the motion and welcome that we have reached this stage in the final draft plan for our borough, new borough local plan, and that it would go out to consultation for submission to the planning inspector. I'd like to thank the planning office particularly for the hard work they've put in on this and over the last few months and before to pull this together into a plan that we bring tonight. And I'll be saying more on it later, but we do have an amendment, and I'm looking to obviously say something about that, but that will conclude my comments for the moment.
Councillor Turf. Councillor David Jones, would you like that to propose your amendment, please?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I move this amendment in the hope that we can get some cross-party consent on ensuring the lack of availability of essential documentation regarding the local plan is rectified or a more serious risk of viability of the local plan occurs. Members, let's be very clear on what the recommendations of this report mean for council tonight, the local plan. Under these current recommendations, we'll vote tonight for the last time to determine if this local plan is sound, go out to public and then to the planning inspectorate, following a brief window of consultation. There's nothing within these recommendations that state that we'll vote on this local plan again. But members, tonight we'll be asked to vote on this local plan with significant amounts of not technical documents, evidence, for which this local plan must be judged has not been made available to members ahead of time to be able to determine if the policies and site allocations within this plan are set. Despite being assured at scrutiny committee that this would be available, the majority of these documents have only been made available over the last 48 hours. These include a number of documents totaling 1,882 pages of critical evidence that we as councillors need to make an informed decision of the suitability of the plan. These have not been made available in a timely fashion that members can read those documents and digest the contents. And we're at risk tonight of being asked to vote to approve this local plan for the final time without time to fully process this critical evidence. But why are we so concerned? Well, local plans are essential. We agree that we do need to have a local plan, but this puts this local plan in great risk. That if we submit this to the planning inspector and sit back happy with the expectation that this plan will be accepted, then we are developing significant risk by not having this evidence available for councillors within a timely fashion. Since 2014, over 40 local plans have been rejected by the planning inspectorate, forcing withdrawal of the plan and later resubmission, delaying the process not by months, but by years. Recent guidance published by the Royal Town Planning Institute cite one of the common factors that can derail a plan at inspectorate stage is evidence of poor consultation or awareness of members of the entire contents within the local plan. Throughout this plan, the consultation process has identified numerous errors with consultation, which was raised by members of the public and members of this group at previous consultation stages. The lack of critical information within a timely fashion to be able to review the evidence puts this plan on shaky ground before it's even left this authority. But let's be frank about this local plan. It's a risky plan. It's a plan that seeks to remove vast swathes of land from the greenbelt for housing and employment. It's a plan that really has to be watertight at submission. If we're to vote this plan through tonight in the knowledge that key evidence documents have been held back, not provided to members with suitable time in advance of this decision, we're putting the plan at risk. Our amendment is simple. We're not asking for a delay that is a long delay. We're simply asking for a short time delay to ensure that all members have sufficient time to read the evidence documents, process that, and we can then be assured that the plan that goes out for consultation has received thorough digestion by members. This won't risk the delay being submitted, the plan being submitted after June. This is simply pretty much a 2-month delay to enable members in order to digest all of that critical evidence, which will still give time for the plan to be submitted to the inspector ahead of the June deadline. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Jones. Councillor Fox Hewitt, would you like to second the amendment, please?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Yes, I do second the amendments to the local plan paper, and I feel it is critically important to do so. The members opposite should recognise that this isn't about party politics. The amendments are not in relation to the substantive content of the local plan. They're not in relation to site allocations. Our group will set out, and members will set out their views on that as part of the consultation process, along with everybody else. But rather, the amendments are directed at the process that's being proposed tonight. Now, members not being afforded the time to view critical documents relating to the evidence base is not acceptable. It's not acceptable in members discharging their responsibilities under the local government framework, or indeed the Nolan principles of public life. Neither is it appropriate that we bypass meaningful consultation with our own communities. We cannot present a fait accompli, which is what it very much looks like this evening. We must adhere to that statutory guidance and the LGA guidance. And in summary, our amendments are both reasonable and pragmatic to safeguard not only the process, but I believe safeguarding the trust and confidence in this council. So therefore, I would urge all members to support those amendments. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Fox Hewitt. Councillor Fear, do you consent to the amendment?
No, Mr. Mayor, I do not.
Thank you, Councillor Fear. Councillor Simon Tagg, do you consent to the amendment?
No, Mr. Mayor.
Members, there is no agreement to amend the original motion, so you must now debate and take a vote on whether or not to amend the original motion. Do any members wish to speak on the proposed amendment? Right, we'll take it in order of receipt, and we'll hear first from Councillor Gordon.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. May I begin by saying I think that Councillor Dave Jones and Councillor Andy Fox Hewitt have done this council a good service this evening by bringing forward the amendments to the recommendations set out in the report. I think the amendment should remind the Cabinet Chief Officers really not to take elected members for granted. Mr. Mayor, 2 years or so ago, in common with many councillors present this evening, I went along to an induction event led by the then Chief Executive of this authority. During his talk, the Chief Executive stressed that one of the key roles performed by councillors, irrespective of their party affiliation, was to hold the Cabinet to account and ensure that correct processes have been followed. Now, that's always seemed to me to be very sound advice, Mr. Mayor, and it's persuaded me to support the amendment moved by Councillor Jones. We need to convince residents and the planning inspector that the content of the local plan, including the supporting material, has been fully discussed, and elected members outside Cabinet had sufficient time to go through these key documents that have shaped and informed the draft recommendations and findings. Now, it may be the case, Mr. Mayor, I don't know that the leader of the council and the portfolio holder are able to absorb vast amounts of information and data in a short space of time. But perhaps they should bear in mind that the less gifted people, and I include myself in that category, need time to study these documents, which have been compiled to support the local plan. Some of these documents, such as site assessment performers, are absolutely key to understanding why some sites have been identified development, whilst others have been rejected. The site assessment performers, Mr. Mayor, run to 190 pages I was able to access this document and other key documents such as the infrastructure delivery plan, which runs to a mere 208 documents yesterday morning. And I'd like to know from the leader or portfolio holder, can they confirm a complete set of company documents was posted on the council website? Now, I understand, Mr. Mayor, that the planning inspectorate will examine the process followed by the authority to prepare the draft local plan. If this is correct, will the leader or portfolio holder explain to members this evening how they would answer a question from the inspector on the amount of time members outside cabinet were given to study key documents which have shaped the plan? Now, I agree with Councillor Fear that the local plan is the single most important stream of work before the present council. By voting for the amendments this evening, we will reassure residents and the inspectorate that every member of the council has been given sufficient time to make informed decisions on the plan. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Gorton. We'll now hear from Councillor Fear.
Thank you very much, Mr. Mayor. At this, I was a little surprised that Councillor Jones talking about the consultation period that we propose as a brief consultation period, given that, as in previous times, we've in fact gone out of our way to make this longer, substantially longer than legislation requires. Also, Councillor Jones talked about risk, and of course, risk is an important thing to think about. And that is why we have at every stage of development of the plan consulted with the Planning Advisory Service, official government Wango, with the National Planning Inspectorate, why we have had a qualified barrister who works in this field look over this plan. All of these people are of the opinion that the plan makes the consultation requirements that are necessary. And of course, at the Reg 19 stage, those are very specific indeed. As regards the variety of documents, once again, the test is on the plan itself, and there is a very substantial amount of supporting information embedded within that plan. So it's not the case that when one looks at these policies, that there is nothing there to work on at all. The evolution of this plan has been slow, it has been steady, and we have taken on board consultation at every stage. What we're going to do now is put this out for a further long-term consultation. At that point, all the suite of evidence is sitting in front of us. At that juncture, if anyone feels that there is a clash, presumably the 8 weeks is sufficient. No one, I think, is going to read all of this supporting documentation. People will no doubt focus down on particular bits of the documentation that interests them. If any of that raises a material concern, in other words, that it shows that the plan structurally will not work, then this plan will come back for discussion to this chamber. However, if those concerns are not material, in other words, they do not damage the plan so that it will not work, so that the inspector will turn it down, then it makes no sense to delay any further. As I say, the clock is ticking. It's ticking in two ways. The first way, as Councillor Jones has alluded, is that next year we move to a more, as they like to put it, streamlined planning process. We have to start again. We have far less time to do any consultation, quite frankly, or we may have someone in Whitehall simply write a plan for us. Given the current government's insistence that development is done with rapidity, I can see the second of those being the case. In that case, what price the consultation with our residents then? The independent inspector has the power to amend our local plan. We are not rubber stamping anything. We are hoping that the inspector, I have strong hopes that he will look favourably on us, but nonetheless, he has the power to insist that amendments be made to the plan.
One moment, please, Councillor Fear. Whoever's got their phone on, can you please switch it off? Thank you. Sorry about that, Councillor Fear.
Not at all, Mr. Mayor. It actually I brought back some nostalgic thoughts to myself. I too enjoyed that series in my youth. Nonetheless, the inspector, if that happens, obviously that plan would then be brought back to this chamber again. As I say, all the indications that we have are that the plan will be found to be sound, that the documentation is out there for people to look at in the consultation period. As again, I'd like to stress, Mr. Mayor, that the unredacted comments of anyone who chooses to make observations on the plan will be sent to the inspector as well as the plan itself. So one's voice will be heard at the point where it matters. This juncture, I fear that this amendment really is to introduce delay. As we introduce delay, of course, developers rub their hands because that's the moment they can strike. There is no need to do this. It imperils the borough, and therefore I will urge members to reject the amendment.
Thank you, councillor Fear. Now hear from councillor Stubbs.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. This evening, I proudly represent Newcastle-under-Lyme, and I was recently reminded at a public meeting, Talk Pits, to advocate the proposed amendments to the Newcastle-under-Lyme local plan. These amendments are crucial for ensuring that our local plan is both robust and reflective of the needs of our and the voices of our community. Firstly, let us address the issues identified in recommendation 1. When the Labour Group convened on the 22nd of July, we noted the absence of several, it was 9 at the time, critical supporting documents. These included the infrastructure delivery plan, strategic housing, employment land availability assessment, and also the green belt assessment, amongst others. The expectation that we approve a local plan with these essential documents missing is not only unreasonable, but it also undermines the principles of sound governance. We must be fully informed to ensure that the plan we endorse is both sound and legally compliant. This is a formal process that requires scrutiny and understanding of all the supporting evidence. Moving on to recommendation 3. Consultation is a fundamental aspect of our democratic process. It is not merely a procedural formality, but a vital exercise that gives our residents, businesses, and stakeholders a true voice. Effective consultation means listening to and learning from those who will be affected by our decisions. It is our statutory duty to consult our residents, especially on matters significant to the local plan. Failure to conduct meaningful consultation could expose the council to judicial review and undermine the trust and confidence of our community. Proposed amendments aim to address these concerns by replacing recommendation 1, we will ensure the final draft plan and all the supporting documents are brought to the next applicable full council meeting. This allows us to seek council approval for the final draft, along with the sustainability appraisal and habitat regulations assessment, in line with the approved local development scheme. These approaches ensure that we have all the necessary information we need before moving forward. Similarly, the amendment to recommendation 3 ensures that following the completion of the consultation, the council will meet to consider the responses. If no amendments are required and no significant issues are raised, the council will quickly authorise the Deputy Chief Executive in consultation with the Strategic Planning Portfolio Holder to submit the final draft to the Secretary of State. This process guarantees that we have genuinely considered the views of our community and adhere to the principles of consultation compliance. In conclusion, these amendments are not just procedural adjustments, nor are they time wasting. They are essential steps to ensure that our local plan is comprehensive, legally sound, and reflective of the community's needs. I urge you all to support these amendments for the betterment of Newcastle-under-Lyme. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, councillor Stubbs. We shall now hear from councillor Holland.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. If Councillor Gorton is less than averagely gifted, I fear greatly for my own aptitude and that's not a members in the chamber. But I'm certain that he is not. I'm certain that all of the Labour Group applied the full brain that they have collectively towards scrutinising all of these documents. I have to say, however, though, that the amendment to me seems to be an extraordinary admission on the part of the leadership of the Labour Group that they have not been doing their job properly. I sincerely hope that all members had the opportunity at the all-member briefing 2 weeks ago to raise some of these issues. I sincerely hope that those of us who were not lucky enough to be on the scrutiny committee that met Thursday 2 weeks ago, and again went into detailed scrutiny of the draft local plan that's now in front of us tonight, took every opportunity to participate. So either you were in the meeting and you were talking and you were being represented directly, or you were watching that meeting take place. And if anybody at any point had come forward and asked to see any of the documents listed in the Labour amendment, I'm certain that our officers would have furnished them with a copy. As it is, all but 2 of the documents identified in the Labour amendment were in fact available not to councillors but to the general public at the time when the Labour Party had its group meeting on Monday. It is false to suggest otherwise. I will be voting against the amendment. And my worry is that in advancing the amendment, Labour members tonight are not seeking to adjust the process. I think that they're calling for 2 additional meetings at a bare minimum, and they are not seeking to help the process along. They are seeking to sustain a narrative that they've made on previous occasions, that the methodology of the local plan is flawed, that the document is flawed, that the consultations have been flawed, and we've been refuting this for a very long time now. And let me sing the song of my people, if I may. This has been an extremely long, detailed process. It has had false starts. It has run through all of my time on this authority. At the scrutiny meeting 2 weeks ago, I had the opportunity to say this. I had the opportunity to say that I was first elected in 2011. And in all the years since, we have not had an adopted, up-to-date local plan. We absolutely have to do this now. We do not want to delay further. The consultation process that's happened in the past has been good. The process that's been followed has been sound. We believe that the document is sound. And for the Labour Party to arrive tonight and to say that on Monday they were not able to consider the footnotes to the footnotes and are therefore asking for more time to read 1,800 pages of documents and to come to a considered judgment on whether or not they are sound, seems to me not to be an assisting to this process. It seems to me that they are seeking to derail the process. And I absolutely, it breaks my heart that in the time I've been on this authority again, it breaks my heart that we have on the planning committee, there was a development management committee earlier this week, and let me tell you, there were empty seats on the Labour benches. Yeah. Those members could not be bothered to show up and to have their say on local planning matters. So to the people in the public gallery, I say this: the Labour Party are not your champions. They are not your voice tonight. They are not here to stand up for the sites that you have identified that you don't want to see in the plan. They are not here. They have performed nothing, Mr. Mayor.
Public gallery will be asked to leave.
Mr. Mayor, I will wind up because I will have a few more remarks to make when we are debating the motion substantively. But I will be voting against the amendment because I do not wish to see any further dither and delay of the type that we associate very strongly with the Labour Party in this borough. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Holden. We'll now hear from Councillor Rebecca Lewis.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I do have great concerns about due process being followed in regards to the progression of the local plan. Albeit I have only been an elected member since September, documentation has now finally been uploaded onto the Borough website, 9 of which have been since Monday. And that was when the Labour group met at the evening. So there's 9 documents from Monday, not 2. I do not think that this is suitable, as it is not enough time to read the documents, never mind process or scrutinise them during this evening's meeting, or even make a conscientious decision on the proposed motion by the administration. For this reason, I will be supporting the amendment that we as the Labour group have put forward, but not supporting the proposal for the regulation item to go ahead next month. Is the reason that Cabinet have not uploaded those documents because they are scared that materialistic flaws could be found within those documents if given chance to process. I have further concerns with regards to the local plan not coming back to the scrutiny committee or full council once the consultation period has completed. This is a significant loss to procedure. I would like to ask my colleagues, both within my group and in the administration, to bear this in mind when making their decision on how they are voting this evening in regards to this report, our amendment and any recommendations. Thank you.
Thank you, councillor Lewis. We shall now hear from councillor Heaton.
Apologies, Mr Mayor. I'll save my comments for when we debate the substantive.
Thank you, councillor Heaton. In that case, we shall hear from councillor Plunkett.
Thank you. As a newly elected councillor in my first term, I was extremely disappointed on Monday that these documents hadn't been published for us to discuss and look at. Tonight, I've got to make a crucial decision based on my residents in Red Street and Crackley and what's best for our community. And I don't actually understand how we can do that fully tonight and my full support without reading all of this documentation. So I want to ask the leader, why weren't some, if not all, of these documents being published earlier?
Thank you. Thank you, councillor Plunkett. We're now here from councillor Wheeldon.
Interestingly enough, I attended the planning briefing where everything was available. I was also on the scrutiny committee at the time that everything was available. I saw a dearth of Labour group representatives at the briefing. If you wanted the information, it was there at that time. To now suddenly pull a rabbit out of a hat and start saying, oh no, we didn't know, when the information has been available and the actual items that you're asking for compared with the overall development, which has been a long time coming and has been available at every step of the way, to actually start complaining you are detailing minutiae and looking for loopholes to be aggressively opposed. I will be voting against any amendments.
Thank you, councillor Wheeldon. Are there any other speakers? Councillor Jones, as a removal of the amendment, do you wish to comment any further?
Thank you, Mr Mayor. I will attempt to respond to elements of the debate that we've had so far. So in terms of the comments made by Councillor Fox here, this is very true. This isn't about sites. This is about having clear sight of evidence that is critical to making a decision about the soundness of the local plan to go out to consultation with less than 48 hours notice to be able to look at these documents. And I will say here, we give the phrase footnotes for footnotes and technical documents. Let's be absolutely clear. The documents we are talking about are the critical evidence that inform the decision making about policies and about site selections. Those site selections were decided on by 3 members of cabinet. We didn't have sight of that document until 48 hours ago. So how are we to determine that those decisions have been made appropriately with the evidence accurately there? Councillor Gordon made very sensible and clear comments, as usual. It's about having a suitable time to put forward their roles. Councillor Fear's comments are, well, I'd expect from somebody who's had extensive time to view these documents. Councillor Fear was one of the members of cabinet who made the decision over the sites. He has had plenty of time to view and consume these documents. Councillor Stubbs made sound comments on the process. Councillor Holland, there's a few things I want to say in response. First of all, your comments on availability of these documents was entirely false. These documents were not available. We asked for them at the scrutiny committee meeting. We were told that these documents would be available in advance. That doesn't mean less than 48 hours for councillors to be able to digest this information. Similarly, Councillor Wielden, I'm afraid that your comment was entirely false as well. These documents weren't available at scrutiny. These documents weren't available at the members' briefing. I'm quite happy for officers to clarify that, should they wish to clarify whether those documents were available at those two meetings. But all of the evidence from which these decisions were made was not available at either of those two meetings. And then finally, and I'm going to address Councillor Holland with this. I've known you for a long time, Councillor Holland. I'm going to address this, I hope, off the cuff remark about attendance at planning last week. It's true, I wasn't at planning last week. I was in hospital, rigged up to treat. Do not ever question my commitment to this council or our residents without suitable evidence of why I wasn't at a meeting. Very much for me. Thank you.
Where was your subsidy?
We now hear from Councillor
May I
Pearson.
raise a point of personal explanation?
No, be no further comments from the public gallery, otherwise I shall have to ask you to leave.
Point of order.
Yes, so I'll hand over to Mr. Pepple to comment here on this matter.
Thank you, Mayor. The Constitution provides that a personal explanation shall be confined to some material part of a former speech by the rising member, which appears by them to have been understood in the current debate. If that's what this relates to, then Councillor Holland is entitled to speak, but it must be confined strictly to that point of explanation.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and thanks to our officer for the guidance. I'm extremely happy to withdraw any negative sentiment attached to my previous words relating to Councillor Jones. It's not intended as an attack on him, but as leadership of this group, he will know every group is entitled to a fixed number of seats proportionally on planning, and they have substitutes available particularly for that purpose. There were substitutes missing at the planning meeting on Tuesday. Thank you very much.
Councillor, thank you, but you have now made your point. Councillor Tagg, do you wish to sum up?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor. For me, we have to look really at, as explained by Councillor Beard and Councillor Holland, that this tonight isn't the end of the process, is it? This is going out to consultation for a third time, for a longer period than is required, and most councils do. And then, what hasn't been touched upon by the Labour members, even though Councillor Beard touched on it in his opening remarks, is that it does come back to this council after the inspector has had his say, or her say, to adopt the local plan. So this full council will get to vote. But when I hear the Labour side, members of the public gallery don't know the full details, but some will, because they've been along for the journey, is that at every point that the Labour members, particularly at scrutiny meetings, have always called into question the consultation period, the length, whether certain things were allowed in the consultation period. Each time, and I've been at these meetings, they have been demolished. One of them was that written submissions weren't allowed. That was allowed. It was always right from the beginning. It was just a social media rumour that was squashed by our officers very quickly. The consultation period, I think it was Councillor Fox-Hewitt said, so this Councillor Jones, for this consultation period, as though it was some sort of short, sharp shock. It's actually 2 weeks longer than is required under the Reg 19 legislation. So we're going further again. We did more events in the public, community centres, other things, public spaces, for people to actually come and give views, learn more information at the last stage of the local plan as well. So there's no complaints in my mind to how we've consulted on this in the past, or how we're going to consult in the future. Coming to the Labour group, and I think Councillor Stubbs said several of the policies. We've got 10 policies which are detailed in the Labour amendments. There are many, many, many more which were all published well in advance, more than 48 hours. But of them, 10, only 2 were not available for the Labour group meeting, or our group meeting, or for the public to view. just two of them. So when they said several and all of those listing of 10, it was just two. Can I also say that, we only heard this lunchtime about this amendment. If it was such a pressing item, if it was such a thing that was needed to be stamped upon or explanation seen, why did we not hear it Monday night? Why did we not hear it Tuesday morning? And so on and so on. It was at lunchtime today when this amendment come in, last minute, just to get it on the agenda to try and disrupt the progress of the local plan for East Reading 19. So let me just see through that, see where we're coming from on that. That's why I'm going to vote against this amendment tonight, so we can get on to the substantive motion, which is about this local plan, how it protects our borough and moves us forward, over the plan period to 2040. So I'm not going to say any more. I'm going to say that we obviously move to the vote, Mr. Mayor, and I'll conclude my comments there. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Tagg. The proposed amendment has now been moved, seconded and debated. We now need to take a vote on whether or not to amend the original motion as proposed. I'll ask all those in favour to show their hands, raise their hands accordingly.
Mr. Mayor, can I call a name vote, please?
Councillor Tagg, you agree with that? Very well, a name vote it shall be, and I'll hand over to our chief executives to carry this out.
Call out members' names in turn, and if you indicate whether you're voting for or against the amendment, and I do so. Thank you. Councillor Rupert Adcock.
Against.
Councillor David Allport.
For.
Councillor Lillian Barker.
Against.
Councillor Amanda Beresford.
Against.
Councillor Robert Beckley Smith.
Against.
Councillor Jacqueline Brown.
For.
Councillor Amy Bryan.
Against.
Councillor Jill Burnett Faulkner.
Against.
Councillor Nicholas Chris.
Against.
Councillor Sylvia Diamond.
For.
Councillor Joel Edgington Plunkett.
For.
Councillor Andy Fear.
Against.
Councillor Andrew Fox Hewitt.
For.
Councillor Richard Gorton.
For.
Councillor David Grocott.
For.
Councillor Jill Heason.
Against.
Councillor Mark Holland.
Against.
Councillor David Hutchinson.
Against.
Councillor Trevor Johnson.
Against.
Councillor Dave Jones.
For.
Councillor Simon Jones.
Against.
Councillor Annabelle Lawley.
For.
Councillor Rebecca Lewis.
For.
Councillor Robert Moss.
For.
Councillor Paul Northcote.
Against.
Councillor Barry Cantor.
Against.
Councillor Andrew Parker.
Against.
Councillor Philip Rees.
For.
Councillor Leslie Richards.
For.
Councillor Craig Skelding.
Against.
Councillor Mike Stubbs.
For.
Councillor Stephen Sweeney.
Against.
Councillor John Tagg.
Against.
Councillor Simon Tagg.
Against.
Councillor Jill Waring.
Against.
Councillor Paul Waring.
Against.
Councillor Joe Wielden.
For.
Councillor Jill Whitmore.
Sorry, just a minute, there was a confusion there. Somebody answered for me,
Okay.
and that's not
I
appropriate.
don't
It's
know
not
who that
even-
is and what
it's
that
not
person
even
please
funny.
desist from that sort of behaviour. I'll take Councillor Wilden's vote now.
I vote against.
Councillor Ian Wilkes.
Hold on. I beg your pardon.
Against.
I didn't do it purposely. For.
Councillor Jill Williams.
For.
Councillor John Williams.
For.
Has every member voted?
Did you get mine? Because my mic was up. It was against Jill.
Against? Yes.
Are there any amendments and abstentions? No. Ladies and gentlemen, the result has, vote has been taken, and there are 16 votes in favour of the motion and 25 against. The motion is lost. Members, we now return to the debate on the substantive motion. I'll ask any members if they wish to speak on the motion before offering the final vote right of reply to the move and second of the motion. Do any members wish to speak on the motion as now amended? Good. Right, we're going to take the members speakers in order I have received them. The first one will be Councillor Hollis.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Happy to open, although of course I'm hoping to leave some room for other members to raise the things that they think are most germane to this. I, in common with many members, but perhaps not all members, have been watching closely the long and sound consultation process followed so far. At the most recent scrutiny meeting at which this draft was considered, I had the opportunity of asking the portfolio holder what he thought was the weakest link in it, if there is anything in that that we're concerned about. And his reply, I thought, was correct one. The reply that he gave is that his concern is that the new government will actually want to see more development and more growth than we have planned for. This is my new favourite book. I obtained this on the date of its publication because I wanted to know what the new government is going to do. This, of course, was published before the election, which tells you a little bit about how I thought that election campaign was going. But they haven't changed their tune, the Labour Party, now they're in government. In fairness to them, the National Labour policy is extremely clear. They want high growth, they want more housing, and they want to support development plans that will produce these. Those are their goals, their stated aims. It's not just in the manifesto. Earlier today at Prime Minister's Questions, the new Prime Minister was asked about development, and he said, let me be clear, we intend to get Britain building. We will work with communities, but we will take the tough decisions that the last government ran away from. So they have undertaken to change the planning regime. Now, I don't want to see a government plan imposed on us. One of the reasons I want us to move ahead with this process is that I believe it will get us as close as we can to a local plan that all of us can support, that has been supported by all of this evidence we've discussed tonight, that talks about local need, that talks about the growth that we want to see in our area and the control that we want to have over it. I am clear that the local plan that we're putting forward is a good one, and I want to see it debated. I wanted to see it consulted on widely. I want to see everyone here who is able to contribute to that process have their comments put unredacted, unvarnished in front of the Secretary of State or her planning inspector, so that they can take the decision as to whether or not we think this is sound. So I'm assured that everybody here tonight, whether they are a local councillor or a member of the public, will have their right to say what they like about this and to have it seen by the decision makers nationally. I know that members will want to focus on the bits of this plan that they are most happy with. Some might want to identify site allocations that they're unhappy with. What I would say is that I have also had the benefit of knowing a little bit about the consultation that took place at Reg 18 at the last stage. Not every councillor participated in that. And I think members of the public would find it revealing if they knew which of their councillors had actually participated in it and made a formal comment, and which hadn't. And if I was a Labour member, I would be sitting a little less comfortably knowing that I had missed all of those opportunities to shape this plan, and now at the last moment, I'm attempting to derail it. I don't think we need to be seeing that. What we need to do is to send this out to consultation with all of the documents in a public way, and we will discover then whether or not our plan is sound when the decision is reached by the planning inspector. Things in here that I think are really good, things that I think we ought to be championing, policies PSD 2 and 3, affirming our towns, Newcastle and Kidsgrove, sit at the top of our settlement hierarchy, loading the most growth and development here to preserve the rural character of our villages, confirming that the overwhelming majority of new development will be in and around the Newcastle area. It is in the plan. Policy PSD 6 in the plan, protecting and sustaining the health and well-being of our residents by pushing active design principles, sustainable transport and health impact assessments at the heart of all new development. CRE policies 1 and 2, meeting our obligations to the environment and ensuring energy efficient homes and businesses for the future. Housing policy 1, new targets, a robust new policy on affordable housing. Policy RET3, policy to resist saturation of new hot food takeaways, and a new policy to restrict planning consent given for the operating hours of such new establishments near to schools. It's all in here. Design standards, air quality standards, mitigation of flood risk, biodiversity, geodiversity, protection of our historic character and our heritage landscapes, support for the rural economy. Very little of this will receive a huge amount of attention tonight, but it is all in there and it is all incredibly important. That is why I will be voting for the motion tonight to send this out to consultation. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Holland. We'll now hear from Councillor Fox-Hewitt.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'm disappointed because tonight is about due process and transparency of the local plan. It is telling, therefore, that we've heard for the last 20-30 minutes from councillors Holland, Fear and Tagg that they have simply deferred to party politics. Just like when they were called out by a packed public gallery when we debated Wallace Quarry, just like when we were in front of a packed public gallery debating the first phase consultation of this plan, and similarly, the public have vocalised their views on your behaviour again tonight. We are here to listen to those who elected us and be their voice. It is clear that you are not representing the people of this borough. Shame on you. Stand aside. You're in control when you have no mandate. I will be voting against.
We'll now hear from Councillor Skelding.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Sorry, like many of the people in the gallery today, one, I am a resident of Newcastle Borough. I'm a resident of Kidsgrove. I am very proud to be a resident of Newcastle and a resident of Kidsgrove. Now, I do fully support this plan. Now, what I want to see, and this may not be a popular view, but I want to see economic growth in the borough. I want to see economic growth in Kidsgrove, and this plan delivers that. It delivers 2 sites at Keele, one at Junction 16 and Torquay, that will help create growth and job opportunities. This is needed for the borough and for the town. And I'm saying this not as a council, but as a passionate resident of Kidsgrove. I remember the days when Kidsgrove had ICR, Celestica as it was later called. It supported 5,000 jobs at the time. We need this growth. But unfortunately, with this comes housing. We need to develop housing. But the way we need to do it in a controlled and proportionate manner. This plan, again, does that. Now, I support this plan to me supports all of these things that I've mentioned in a well-structured and measured manner. But most importantly of all, to me, it protects the borough from predatory developers and speculative planning proposals. Without this plan, the door's left open to developers that can just walk in, overzealously develop plots that have not been scrutinised to the depth that we have scrutinised these policies and this plan that's before us today. So by having no plan, it will not stop development. it will stop growth, it will hinder growth, but development will go through either way. And we'll have no control of it. So I'll summarise a little, sorry. Let's be clear. It's not a case of no local plan means no development in Newcastle. It means that there will be development in Newcastle and all the wards throughout that we have no say in. The local plan is a vital tool that allows us to take control of development in our borough. It means we can determine where and what sort of development takes place. And this it encroaches on the green spaces and everything. We'll have no say in any of this. I am a bit disappointed.
We have no say.
I am a bit disappointed. I am not making this a political issue.
To leave.
I'm making this as a resident of the borough and of Kidsgrove. To me, this isn't a political issue. Everyone in this room should be on the same team. And unfortunately, that's not the case. Now, this plan to me is one that protects the borough and protects your wards. Because without this plan, it's open season for developers. I'm sorry, that might be an unpopular view, but that's the way I stand on this. And I will be voting to support this plan. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Skelton. We're now here from Councillor Stubbs.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and thank you for the second opportunity to speak on this matter. It allows me to express my concerns and explain why I cannot support this agenda item. Whilst I recognise the importance of strategic planning for our community's growth and development, there are several critical issues that compel me to oppose this plan at this stage. Firstly, one of the primary reasons for my opposition is the lack of adequate consultation and community engagement. Effective planning should be a collaborative process that involves the voices of stakeholders, residents, business, youth groups, etc. Unfortunately, the consultation process for this plan has been insufficient, leaving many community members feeling unheard and marginalised. You only have to listen to the public gallery to believe that. The UK Planning Inspectorate often cites inadequate consultation as a significant reason for refusal at Regulation 19 stage, emphasising the need for a genuine and inclusive engagement. Secondly, the proposed plan raises serious environmental concerns. The development sites identified in the plan include areas of significant ecological value, such as green belts and wildlife habitats. The potential destruction of these areas would not only harm local biodiversity, but also undermine our commitments to environmental sustainability. Another critical issue is the infrastructure deficit. The proposed developments would place immense pressure on our existing infrastructure, including roads, schools, healthcare, and public transport, main form. Without clear and feasible plans to upgrade and expand these services, the quality of life for current and future residents will be severely compromised. Again, the planning inspector often refuses plans that do not demonstrate a realistic, and I choose that word, realistic approach to infrastructure provision. And this is essential for our sustainable development. Furthermore, the plan lacks a comprehensive strategy for affordable housing. While it includes provisions for new housing, there is insufficient emphasis on ensuring that these homes are affordable and accessible to all segments of our local communities. Additionally, there are concerns about the economic viability of the proposed developments. The plan does not provide a robust analysis of the economic impacts, including job creation, local business support, and long-term economic sustainability. Without a clear economic strategy, there is a risk that the development could lead to economic stagnation rather than growth. And lastly, the plan fails to address flood risk management. Several of the proposed development sites, in fact, many of the sites in my own area, 400 of which are in the green belt and 500 selected, are prone areas to flooding, and the plan does not provide sufficient measures to mitigate the risk. In conclusion, while I appreciate the efforts that have gone into this plan, I cannot support it in its current form. The issues of inadequate consultation, environmental impact, infrastructure deficit, affordable housing, economic viability, and flood risk management are too significant to overlook. I therefore urge the council to reconsider and address these concerns to ensure that our community's future development is sustainable, inclusive and resilient. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. Applause is not a thing that normally heard in here, and I will not tolerate any further interruptions from the public gallery because your election representatives who want to speak on your behalf will not be able to do so if you continue to interrupt them. Any more further interruptions and you never vote,
you just count the number of chairs.
No, would you please leave, sir?
This side.
Please leave.
Oh, grow up.
And who did that?
Just think about it.
No.
Foregone conclusion, this is. Fait accompli, just like this chap said.
Go away.
The next speaker. The next speaker will be Councillor Becky Smith.
Yes, thank you very much, Mr. Mayor. We as members should be thinking about risk. And the greatest risk lies in not progressing this plan to the next stage. Because delay increases the risk of the plan being overturned or delayed or developers moving in. And that's the key thing. We as members must look at the overall risk and reach an appropriate conclusion. So for those reasons, I will of course be supporting the plan this evening. Now, just turning to a point of detail, we've heard a lot about the green belt and it all being lost. But this plan is very powerful. And for someone who enjoys public green spaces, which I very much do, I'm pleased to see that the local plan is actually promoting opportunities for walking, cycling, horse riding in our borough. And I'm particularly pleased, as is my colleague Councillor Beresford, who's a local footpath champion, putting in stiles and gates and improving the countryside for the benefit of all residents. So I speak on her behalf as well. But we are seeing the development positively in this plan of these green spaces. And of course, being a member for Thistlebury, I'm delighted to see what's happening there in terms of the green spaces, the butts and so on and so forth, that at one stage could have been lost and compromised, are being preserved and retained. And then let's not be political about this. Let's look at what's happening in Keele and benefiting Silverdale with the planting of trees, with the public, with the new.
Chop them down in the first place. Fall down, he'd have seen.
Madam, you've heard, I must ask you to desist from that or I will ask you to leave. Carry on, please.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Mayor. It's unfortunate that one's being interrupted when one's speaking about such positive aspects that the Labour group have been speaking against that are going to benefit the community. And this is important. That's why I'm delighted to see what is being proposed here. But I do mention this new country park and things, which is in a Labour ward, because I think it's important and I'm not being political. It's not that we've got everything saved in Thistlebury as a Conservative ward. It's that the benefit is being spread out politically equally. So, Mr. Mayor, I will be voting in favour of this plan.
What do you think?
It's quite enough in the public gallery. One more comment and I'll have the gallery cleared.
Yeah, I've had a few emails, phone calls, conversations, both for and against this. And you're on about there might be open to developers. There's 3 already that have made inquiries. 2 landowners that want to put over 300 houses up. One that wants to put 40. Now, the last email I had was telling me I was in dereliction of my duty because I didn't go to a public meeting at 10 o'clock on a Saturday morning, considering I work nights and I didn't get in until 9 o'clock. I was in bed. will be, I didn't have a personal invitation, it was a public meeting, so that was how it did go. But it did give me the chance to have a look at what statements I've been given or been giving out for the last 23 years. And the one theme or two themes that ran through that was affordable housing and jobs. This is a chance where we can get them done. It might take, or probably take another couple of years, so 25 years, to get that done. Therefore, I am supporting this plan.
Thank you, Councillor Wilkes. We now hear from Councillor Aycock.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I think it's worth pointing out that we don't always have to look at local plans in purely negative terms. In fact, we'll be seeing a number of gains in this local plan. Having a local plan in place allows us to designate which areas we want to protect, as well as which areas we class for ideal development. And I'll just say one example. Since I was elected, of course, a lot of my focus has been on the former Kiel Golf Course, and several residents have been in touch with me asking for a compromise, recognising that some house building will likely take place on this disused site in future, given the housing pressures in this country, but very understandably, very concerned about the loss of green space and of wildlife. Some have even shown me proposals wanting a significant buffer zone around Silverdale on the golf course, which I then passed on to planning officers as part of the consultation. There was a starting point years ago where the whole Kiel Golf Course site was under threat, where 1,800 homes were being proposed under the previous administration's joint plan with Stoke, which we thankfully then scrapped. We took control through our own local plan. We're now in a position where we can choose the minimum housing growth targets. Therefore, the plans are now reflecting more of the will of the people in consultation to protect 2/3 of the former golf course, largely on the Silverdale side, while splitting up the rest into smaller parcels of development. The housing number has been halved. That's quite a change made possible only by taking control through a local plan. A common criticism of new developments is the lack of infrastructure to go with new housing. But I see now in the proposals there is plans for a new local primary school, giving residents more options for their children, a new health centre, a new local centre for new shops. The majority of the former golf course is being proposed as a new country park, the Lyme Park, which unlike now, will be properly maintained, properly looked after, and fully open to the public. Ancient trees and woodland will be protected, and there will likely be nature reserves. Together with the existing Silverdale Country Park, local residents will have two large open country parks to enjoy. And whilst I'm sure there will be lots of issues to be worked out, and people can comment on them in consultation, it's important to see that local plans can bring gains for local people. Look at the development of Heritage Park, which shows the kind of measured developments which can work for many families, including friends of mine who live there, who now enjoy these homes, and the whole community benefits from the expansive country park on the old mining site. Now, it's never easy to accept the loss of any greenbelt land. I'm sure we'd all like to be sitting here promising we'll never have to use any greenbelt anywhere in the borough, ever, as some seem to suggest. That's the politically easy option, no doubt. But let's look at the realities of what would happen if we were to reject the local plan. If we have no reasonable plan in place to designate which spaces that we want to develop and which we want to protect, crucially, it's very likely central government will step in and make plans for us, almost guaranteed to be less favourable. Housing targets will only go one direction, upwards. Keir Starmer quotes, "We will build 1.5 million homes in this parliament." Keir Starmer quotes, "We will introduce binding targets for planning authorities." Keir Starmer quotes, "Labour won't be afraid to use intervention powers to build new houses we need where necessary." The new Labour government has made house building on greenbelt land one of its largest priorities and been very open about this fact. Housing targets are being reinstated and increased. Planning laws concerning the greenbelt are being relaxed. Top of the list for development is so-called grey belt land, which has been previously developed in some way. It's somehow pretended that this 1.5 million homes can all be built on some disused car park somewhere, and the like. But according to Sam Stafford, head of the Home Builders Federation, as quoted by BBC News, the grey belt will likely include former golf courses. It's clear that many of our green spaces and the entire former Kiel golf course is under threat if we don't put a local plan in place in a relatively short space of time. We do not want to be in a position where there's a development free-for-all, where we have almost no control over the green spaces we want to protect. The new government wants to back the builders, not the blockers. By blockers, they mean us, local people and local councils. We must not allow any opportunity for central government and for developers to take back control over this process. We can look to the recent case in Baldwinsgate as evidence of the risk of having no local plan in place. Many homes will now be built there, despite the strong objection of local people and of councillors. We have to be in the position of looking at positives in the local plan, looking at where we started, looking at some of the damaging proposals in the joint local plan that was scrapped, looking at the progress that's now being made, and I'm sure will continue to be made in the next consultation. A vote in favour of this is a vote to take control of the plans of the borough, which will secure us until 2040. It's a vote to include local people in the consultation process. And I feel that a vote against this, despite all intentions, hands power back to central government and frees up development for all developers, uncontrolled development on greenbelt across the borough. So I'll be supporting this plan. It's a good plan and it'll go out to final consultation so local people can continue to have their say on these important issues. Thank you.
Thank you. We now hear from Councillor Eddington Plunkett.
Thank you very much. And I know Councillor Mike Stubbs has summed up a lot of my points in regards to the flooding that we're currently receiving, such during the winter months in Redstreet. The GPs, the dentists, and they become suddenly unavailable because of becoming already so stretched with the volume of people that are currently under the borough. Our highway demand, the amount of reports we have of potholes that currently aren't getting filled. If there's more cars within our borough, at the Statutory Council, have we had these appropriate meetings? And another one is education. I work in the education sector and I've had several just informal conversations with the school leaders who are part of a multi-academy trust. In the special economy and place meeting, I raised this point of education and have we been consulting with heads? And the response was no. Well, we've been consulting with Staffordshire County Council's Education Board. I was then hugely disappointed to find out that we haven't been really speaking to these head teachers direct. So can I ask, following meetings from our officers and any cabinet members, have any major risks being approached have come up following our consultation process so far?
Thank you. We should now hear from Councillor Burnett Faulkner.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'd just like to say that I will be supporting the local plan as it's a good plan and will help enormously with our housing shortages. Also, it will provide benefits for our younger generation by building affordable homes, people with special needs and older people by building smaller, well-equipped and safe apartments. These are all needed in our community and we've been so short of for such a long time. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. We should now hear from Councillor David Jones.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. We've heard contribution after contribution from the other side that accounts to nothing more than project fear. If we don't have this local plan, that's it. Your green spaces are gone. There will be concrete all over the borough. There'll be no green spaces for any of us to enjoy. We'll have no control. That certainly hasn't been the case over the last, I don't know how many years that we haven't had a local plan. And it's certainly not the case for the communities of Peel, communities of Silverdale, communities of Audley, of Redstreet, of Torque and Torque Pits, whose real danger of losing their green space is this plan. Because this plan aims to take that land out of the green belt and to build on it. That's the real material risk to those communities and those green spaces. Now, I've heard former contributions about if we, specifically about Keele Golf Course, that if we don't approve this plan, Keele Golf Course will be concreted over. Well, Keele Golf Course is owned by the Borough Council. Yeah. The only way it's getting concreted over is if the administration chooses to sell it to be concreted over. In fact, it would struggle to do that at the moment because it's in the green belt. The administration is utilising this local plan process to take land that it owns out of the green belt. Incidentally, for those councillors who weren't around, it wasn't the Labour administration that agreed the disposal of Keele Golf Course. It was an assets committee that was set up by the then opposition Conservatives with the Liberal Democrats and the Independents at the time, which Councillor Tagg was on, that put the golf course into an asset disposal. Simply put, this plan is the biggest risk to green space in this borough. And to hear contribution after contribution from councillors who quite frankly should know better about the risk to green space or greenbelt space that we have seen so far without a local plan is, I am afraid, false. This plan is simply a way to sell borough assets to set a 400 home a year housing target, not government targets, which are potentially lower, our own housing targets.
Absolute nonsense.
To hold us to those housing targets, which incidentally, if we do not meet those housing targets, those are the supremacy. It then is open season on land in order to meet those targets. We are essentially saying to government, we will build these houses every year. We don't meet those targets, government will turn around to us and go build those houses. It will open up land. It sets a mark for us that is one that we will have to achieve through this plan. I'm afraid I won't be supporting this tonight. Purely, I think I am absolutely disgusted that we are putting forward a risky plan that I think will struggle at the inspectorate stage in order to take borough-owned land out of the green belt. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, councillor Jones. Any more further comments from the public? I think it will be clear. Councillor Northcote.
Thank you, councillor. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I will be supporting this plan for several reasons. And I'll just pick up on my colleague, councillor Jones. I'm afraid, with due respect, you really haven't grasped what's happening in the borough. You say that there's no problem in not having a local plan. If you do bother to go into loggerheads, you'll see the plethora of big estates that are being built out because there has not been a local plan. We haven't been able to resist any development out there, and at the risk of green space, it's been open season for the last 10 years in loggerheads and Baldwin's Gate recently. That can't fail to be seen, Mr. Jones. I don't see how you can make that comment on the project here. We're not actually.
Why don't you shove off?
Order! Did you hear that, Mr. Mayor?
Ladies and gentlemen, fellow councillors, I've had enough of this. I'm adjourning this meeting for 5 minutes to call. Look, you all cool down.
Yes.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I don't suppose you want me to call out Project Fear again, do you? Or in case you didn't get the.
Up to you, what you said, Councillor.
No, I won't, in case of a bit of brevity. Having done that, I was going to go on to mainly the extra housing that have been parked over there in Maidley, because again, there hasn't been a local plan. Now, sitting on the planning committee as chair, I've seen the frustration in members' faces when we deliberated on applications because we hadn't had a local plan. This local plan will help to give us at least some tools in order to guide where we site suitable housing and development in the future, Mr. Chairman. I'm also supporting it pretty much because of policy PSD6, as my colleague Councillor Holland alluded to earlier, that health and well-being for the first time in the local plan will be featured. This is a really important point and something I've been working very hard with colleagues at the County Council, part of my portfolio for public health, to actually get a policy which we can link additional supplementary planning guidance to in the future. But without that policy in the local plan, it will have no teeth. So I'm really pleased that this is in here. It's very important. It's got a lot of things to build upon in the future. It's a golden thread there. The health impact assessments to assess new developments going forward. It's very important to understand that where we are going in the state of the nation, we are living longer, but not necessarily living better. We need to have those conversations about obesity, being overweight, and this is a starting point in which we can have those conversations, Mr. Mayor. So I won't go on any further, and that's my submission why I should be supporting the plan tonight. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Northcote. Final speaker, Councillor Sweeney.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor. I like I've also looked on the internet. I went back to last year. So it's a little bit out of date, but I think the sentiment is probably there. So Keir Starmer has told the BBC he is a YIMBY, yes, in my backyard, because he's against blocking new homes being built in local areas. The Labour leader would bulldoze restrictive planning rules and overrule local MPs to build more homes. So Keir has pledged to build 1.5 million homes if elected. It's just a side really, but I wonder if Councillor Mazzocchi Jones and the Labour group would consider themselves YIMBYs. One thing I do find strange on this is there seems to be some perception amongst the general public. If you have no local plan, you have no houses. And it's absolutely the opposite. You have no local plan, you'll have houses everywhere, you'll have no control over it, they'll be put where the developers so they can make a quick profit. We talk about consultation, well, the Labour group talks about consultation. We're doing 8 weeks worth of consultation, which I believe is 2 weeks more than we need to. The idea that we're hiring somebody who's not doing consultation is just for the birds, really.
It means nothing if you don't act on it.
I want to look outside referendum consultation. Again, the Labour group, it can't stop these personal attacks. Especially such as play the ball, not the man leads mine, but they always have to get personal, it's just the way they are. Thank you very much, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor. So now, Councillor Taggart, Councillor Fiat, sorry, I got my phone from. Councillor Fiat, proposal, would you like to sum up?
No, I answered a question. Oh, one question. I really want to. It would be very short. I quickly gave my name.
Very well, one quick one and no more.
I do apologise. I did give my name in to put a question. It's very simple. And without interruption, I would ask you just to listen. The greatest risk is misinformation that's happening. And I would ask you to look at 3 situations. If we have no growth, we stay as we are, nothing gains, we don't gain. As a community, we shrink. If we have a plan, we develop with control, our control, yours through consultation, us through putting your ideas and views as best we can forward. If we have no plan, then the changes that are happening over this next few months will actually lose control and we will have no say in what's being built. So instead of having, say, 100 houses on a plot, there'll be 350 or 550. And that is the greatest risk. And I think one of the things that is a great risk is, don't you interrupt me, is misinformation.
Thank you. Should now ask Councillor Fear's proposal of this motion to sum up.
Thank you very much, Mr. Mayor. Before I do that, may I, as a matter of procedure, call for a name vote, please, on this item. I'll stand to.
If I have no problem with that, if you'd all please be seated and it's actual summing up, Councillor Fear.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, if I may. It's been an interesting and lively evening. We started with a rabbit out of the hat, as the leader of the council has pointed out. Those concerns have been raised earlier, and one has to doubt the sincerity of them in the way that that was arranged. We moved from a rabbit out of a hat to a conspiracy theory, which was interesting. We then had certain comments about housing numbers. The current Chancellor of the Exchequer has made very clear that there will be mandatory housing targets imposed across this country. The calculation we have in the local plan has been run by the standard methodology as recommended by the National Planning Framework. Right? So that's entirely in order. I'm intrigued at that fact whether perhaps Councillor Jones feels the need to resign from the Labour Party, or given the ructions in Parliament last night, whether in fact Sir Keir Starmer may suspend him from the whip. I don't know. So that's one point. Again, I would like to reiterate, like other colleagues, no plan doesn't mean no development. It means we lose control over development. Like Councillor Northcott, I've sat on the planning committee for many years. I've been very frustrated that developments which the planning committee have been unhappy with, we have then been told we could not demonstrate a deliverable 5-year land for housing. That is the trump card. The developer plays it and your concerns disappear. This plan provides a structured 5-year deliverable housing land supply. That means we take the trump cards back, and that should be in everybody's mind at this point. Now, the local plan is a large document, and I would commend absolutely everyone in this borough to read it, and to read it all. The really sad part of the plan, and there's only one paragraph which I think is really very sad, and that is paragraph 3.18. And that says, employees who live in the borough tend to earn less than across the region or country. And says the survey of hours and earnings suggests the median gross pay is lower for residents of the borough than it is in Staffordshire, the West Midlands region, or the UK. That is why, like Councillor Skelding, I am proud that this plan is promoting employment opportunities. Our people deserve the quality of living, the job opportunities that we have elsewhere. There's an old saying, Mr. Mayor, you can't eat a view. Think about that and think about paragraph 3.18. When we go on, we can also think perhaps about consultation. One of the sad things about this evening is that the rhetoric of the Labour Party has tended to undermine confidence in consultation. I will again stress that this is the third time that we have taken extra time for consultation. The draft local plan has been a public document ever since the scrutiny committee of the 11th of this month. That means that in fact people have been able to read it from that point in time. That's even more weeks, so to speak. Again, I'd like to stress, I know Councillor Whelan alluded to this, that there are very many ways of being able to consult and have your voice heard in this plan, by the portal, but also written evidence and other methods. And we will be making sure that people are fully aware of all of those. Everyone can have their say. Everyone can have their say to the man who matters, the independent inspector. Comments will be forwarded to that inspector in an unredacted form. In other words, if the inspector thinks that those comments have a point, he will act upon them. And as I have pointed out, Mr. Mayor, that inspector has the power to order changes be made to the plan if he deems it to be unsound. I personally think, having worked as we have with the Planning Advisory Service, Planning Inspectorate had legal opinion on this. That will not be the case, but of course, that always is potentially the case. Finally, again, I will just reiterate the need to read all of the plan and not just drop in and out of it. We had issues raised this evening about affordable housing. There's actually a whole plan, a whole policy in the plan on affordable housing. There's a whole policy on housing hierarchy. As my colleagues alluded to, there are health concerns embedded in it. There is a whole policy on flood risk management. There is a whole policy on sustainable drainage systems, and so on and so on. In other words, let's look at this as a holistic plan for the good of our borough. There is much that is very good in here. And again, think about paragraph 3.18 and the need we have to produce quality employment in this borough. I very much commend this plan to you.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Simon, take us from seconded. Do you wish to sum up?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So, all very quickly, we've had a long debate on this. I'd just like to endorse everything that has been said on this side of the chamber from this Conservative group who've put forward. The positive policy here is to get this local plan into the inspector following consultation so we can move forward. And I think we just have to quickly look back at 2012 and 10 was mentioned. We haven't had an up-to-date local plan in this borough since 2003. That's how long. And of course, how to get here to where we are now on our own new borough local plan. We withdrew from the joint local plan with Stoke-on-Trent in January 2021. The reason why was because we were being tied into city-sized growth, housing growth figures. Stoke removed one of their largest sites, therefore meaning that they couldn't meet their side of the bargain. And also there was different, we were moving in different directions on, we wanted to preserve our green space. They obviously wanted to build on brownfield sites, but then they were also taking other sites out that made that impossible. Just for Labour members, you were about to sign up to, if you went to from power in 2017, at the end of 2017, up to 13,000 houses during the joint local plan period. That's almost more than double what we're going to get under the local plan. So that just puts that in context. This local plan gives us a lot less houses over the plan period. And because we've gone it alone and we've done our own borough local plan, we've been able to protect our local green spaces that are under council ownership. Those are ones that are public accessible. Some of them are being improved with tree planting. I saw there was cackles and laughs from the audience over that, but tree planting and wildlife and wildflower planting has gone ahead on many of those green spaces, and more over the next few years that will happen. We've also prioritised brownfield sites. When we came to power, the plans for the Rycroft had collapsed in on themselves. There was nothing planned on there because it's collapsed. It was going to be some sort of large retail units that nobody wanted to take on. What we've got on there now is accommodation. That is a brownfield site we're going to use for accommodation. There's going to be some houses on there, apartments, all sorts of things. We just heard this week that another part of the site is going to go off to be developed by a private developer to bring more housing. We're going to be redevelop the Midway into apartments for housing. And the list goes on some of the brownfield sites around the town. So we've ensured brownfield first to protect our green spaces. And then 60 green spaces have so far been protected that are borough owned and also publicly accessible for the benefit of the communities of Maybank, Wolstanton, Bradwell, Chesterton, Holditch, Crackley, Westlands, Westbury Park, Thistlebury, Town. And we're also, at Cabinet meeting last week, are bringing forward council-owned public space in our villages. That includes Audley, Madeley, Loggerheads, Baldwin Gate and others. Bring them forward also to protect them and also enhance them with tree planting where necessary as part of our plans to reach net zero. Also, as Councillor Adcock has said about the plan for the country parking on the former Kiel golf course, and I think I have to correct Councillor Jones again. Obviously, the plans for the 1,800 homes were discussed under the Labour's local plan, and also there was talking about. I think Councillor Adcock talked about grey belt. I think Councillor Jones and the Labour administration were well ahead of using grey belts because they were considering putting an application in for the car park and clubhouse on Kiel Golf Course back in the run up to 2017. That's no local plan, and they were being speculative developers bringing it forward. That's from a former Labour cabinet member, and I believe him rather than Councillor Jones. I think when we look at the plan, people have been outlining the policies in the plan for green, for health, for transport, for travel, and also it's been signed off by the Planning Advisory Service and also planning inspectors and consultants. We've also taken legal advice, as all expected to do as part of forming a local plan that will get through the stage with the inspector. I think also we've mentioned on the Labour side about affordable housing. There is the same affordable housing requirement in this plan as there was in the previous plan that was brought in 2003, which was done by the Labour Party back then. So our commitment to provide affordable housing is clear. And on the right cloth, there will be a percentage of affordable housing, actual homes and houses, not apartments, for the social sector, which is really important. I'm really in favour of that. So we come to third-party landowners just finally, and that is causing, I think, why we've got the public gallery here today. Third-party landowners are able to put land into this, and that has to be assessed on its merits. Residents may be against it, but then the developer, whether it's for business sites like there is in Audley, or whether it's for homes, that can then be challenged through the inspector stage. So our officers and this council have to take a path down the middle. And we, as you've seen from the Reg 18 consultation to this one, homes have been removed, sites have been removed to get us to where we now have a plan that we believe will be defendable at the inspector stage and will give us that local plan we need for all the reasons that have been said. I support the nay vote that's going to happen in a moment. I think it's really crucial, given the national governments now, that local members from the same party should be held to account when the national government, I believe, will begin to impose on councils that haven't got local plans. Of course, we want to get ours over the line, get it out to consultation, get it on the books, get it functioning, so that we can protect as much green space as possible before Starmer's army comes. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Tagg. Members, I shall now ask you.
Point of order, Mr. Mayor.
There has been a request for a name vote.
Point of order, Mr. Mayor.
Yes, point of order.
Thank you. The point of order is there have been repeated assertions tonight that members of our group have misled council and those in attendance, in that we have claimed that critical documents supporting the Conservative local plan were unavailable. And it's claimed that they were available weeks before Monday, before this critical meeting. So the point of order is I would like to invite the Chief Executive of the Council to state publicly when those documents were available to members of the Council and the public on the document database, please.
Thank you. Mr. Trevor will comment on this matter from a legal point.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. For it to be a point of order, it has to relate to one of the standing orders of the council. That doesn't relate to one of the standing orders, therefore it's not a point of order for the chairman. Mr. Mayor, can I?
So you're not going to disclose when the documents were available?
This is a point of order for this meeting.
Members, as I said, we now ask you to vote on this motion. A request was made for a name vote, so Mr. Trevor will carry out that vote accordingly.
Councillors, I'll call each of your name in turn. Could you please indicate whether you're for or against the motion? Councillor Adcock. For. Councillor Allport.
Against.
Councillor Barker.
For.
Councillor Beresford.
For.
Councillor Bentley Smith.
For.
Councillor Brown.
Against.
Councillor Bryan.
For.
Councillor Burnett Faulkner.
For.
Councillor Chris.
For.
Councillor Diamond.
I for or greenbelt sites from Talk Pits, Talk and Butt Lane. Against.
Councillor Edgington Plunkett.
Against.
Councillor Fear.
For.
Councillor Fox Stewart.
Representing those that put me here against.
Councillor Gorton.
Against.
Councillor Grocott.
Against.
Councillor Easton.
For.
Councillor Holland.
Behalf of the residents of the Westlands Ward.
Councillor
I think we can just go yes or no, please.
Yes or no?
Well, we can't do yes and no.
Councillor Hutchinson.
Too much, was it?
Councillor Hutchinson.
For.
Councillor Johnson.
For.
Councillor Dave Jones.
Against.
Councillor Simon Jones.
For.
Councillor Lawley.
Against.
Councillor Lewis.
Against.
Councillor Moss.
Against.
Councillor Northcote.
That's a four from me.
Mr Mayor.
For.
Councillor Parker.
For.
Councillor Rees.
Against.
Councillor Richards.
Against.
Councillor Skelding.
For.
Councillor Stubbs.
Against.
Councillor Sweeney.
For.
Councillor John Tagg.
For.
Councillor Simon Tagg. For. Councillor Jill Waring.
For.
Councillor Paul Waring.
For.
Councillor Wheeldon.
For.
Councillor Whitmore.
For.
Councillor Wilkes.
For.
Councillor Jill Williams.
Against.
Councillor John Williams.
Against.
Has everyone voted?
Are there any abstentions?
No.
Members, the vote is 25 in favour, 16 against. The motion is therefore carried. Members, that now concludes this particular item of business. I'll ask a few minutes for the Gary to clear before we carry on with the rest of the business.
What would you do about it?
We now come to item 6 on the agenda. Members, we now come to the substantive item of business, which is the urgent notification for committee seat allocations. A copy of this report and associated papers can be found on pages 25 to 33 of your agenda and 29 to 37 of your agenda. A paper has been tabled this evening with changes to Labour's membership of the planning committee. Councillor Jones, please could I ask you to run through these changes when we go to the debate? But Councillor Simon Tagley, please now introduce the report.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor. Really pleased to, there's a number of points in here, as you say, detailing when obviously councillors Simon and Gary White stood down. I'd like to thank them for their time on the council, as I did publicly at the time, and then also the effects of the seats being retained. And I welcome Councillor Mandy Berrington and Councillor Jill Whitmore to their places here in the council, representing Madeley and Betley. Obviously, there's implications of that. Obviously, the Conservative group gets the seats back, which were obviously occupied by Simon and Gary White. They've been allocated in this report, which I'm quite happy with, and also a change to the sub arrangement. And also, we take back our place on planning and licensing and public protection, and the changes are detailed in there. I noticed that the Labour group have also put on a few changes to planning, which I'm quite happy to endorse as well. I'm sure that could get seconded by Councillor Jones on the whole report. That'd be really good. But nothing more to add other than to say I'd like to thank the officers who handled the election. Obviously, there was a series of elections taking place all at the same time there. We had some by-elections in Kitrove and Madeley on the parish and the town. And then we also had the obviously the issue of general election, which was quite busy for me during that period, obviously. But really pleased on Monday to come in here for the count, and we retained those 2 seats. Really on the back of a very good campaign by 2 local candidates to replace Simon and Gary White, who have obviously a record of being local good candidates as well. Just proves that you have local good candidates standing that you can overcome any national issues, and well done to them again. And I move the recommendation and report plus the supplementary from Councillor Jones.
Thank you, Councillor Tagg. Councillor Sweeney, would you like to second the motion? Oh yes, my apologies, Councillor Jones, sorry.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'm happy to second the motion. And just before I very briefly update on the changes to our membership of the planning committee, I'd also like to put on record our congratulations to our 2 new councillors. And I hope that they enjoyed their time around this borough council. We've taken the opportunity to review our membership planning committee, and with the allocation now of 4 seats to the Labour group, we have decided that councillors Jill Williams, John Williams, Richard Gordon will remain on planning committee. Councillor Jacqueline Brown will join planning committee, and myself and Councillor Brockie, who have both previously been members of the planning committee, will become substitutes. In addition, Councillor Mike Stubbs will be replaced as a substitute by Councillor Rebecca Litz. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Jones. Members, we now move to the debate on this item. Can I ask you to indicate by raising your hands if you wish to speak? Silence is golden. And I think that's all accepted. Agreed. The next item is a statement of the leader of the council. Members, a copy of this report can be found on pages 5 to 8 of your supplementary agenda pack. I'm going to ask Councillor Simon Tagg if you would like to introduce the statement. I will then invite members to put questions to the leader or relevant portfolio holder. We'll take each paragraph of the statement in turn and we'll invite up to 3 questions at a time before I ask the leader to respond. If I could remind members, this is not a debate, and once a leader has responded, there is no right of members to reply. Councillor Tagby, and I'd like to introduce your statement, please.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Yes, I'll do that and welcome any questions or comments on that.
Thank you, Councillor. Members, we now note in paragraph 1 that Cabinet met on the 23rd of April, the 4th of June and the 16th of July, respectively. Do members have any comments or questions on any items from the aforementioned Cabinet meetings that are not covered in this leader's statement? Right. Paragraph 2 is about Warris Quarry odour issues. Do members have any comments or questions on paragraph 2? Councillor Adcock and Councillor Fear. Councillor Adcock first.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. It is welcome to hear how much activity is happening on this council concerning Wallace Quarry recently. I'm glad that a letter's gone out to the new minister, and we all really hope that this legal action will finally be approved and can get going. I do welcome that our new MP, Adam Jogee, has already raised this in Parliament with the new minister team. I can say, having attended the inquiry day yesterday, was extremely productive and very useful. Until such a time as we might get a full, proper public inquiry, this was a great opportunity to hear directly from those most affected. We heard from a wide range of people, all the way from local campaigners, the former MP Aaron Bell, council officers, local doctors, many more, too many to name here. We heard some very serious evidence about the failings of this site, management and regulation, and we really look forward to hearing from the Environment Agency, the Health Security Agency, and our new MP on the 14th of August. I've also met with Arcadis recently, who are running the new community impact study on behalf of the county council. There's now a steering group of residents being set up. Local businesses and schools have been contacted already. There's focus groups being set up looking at health impacts, economic impacts, wider impacts. And we hope this study will enable people to tell their stories about the wide range of impacts it's had on them living with this pollution for years. A big impression I'm getting from attending all these meetings is that local campaigners, doctors, and this borough council are at significant cost having to pick up the pieces after the failings of other agencies designed to protect them. Would the leader agree with me in that assessment?
Thank you, Councillor Adcock. Councillor Fear.
Thank you very much, Mr. Mayor. I too attended the inquiry that we set up, given that I'm very pleased that this council has taken that initiative, given the lackadaisical approach of higher authorities. Would the leader agree with me that what we heard yesterday was both very informative but also very concerning? And would it be possible, if this hasn't already been done, I know that the meeting was recorded, that the URL for the recording be sent to the relevant Secretary of State so that he can apprise himself of what's been going on?
Thank you, Councillor Fear. If there are no other speakers, Councillor Tag, do you wish to respond?
Yes, thank you for those two comments. I think the last one from Councillor Fear is a very good suggestion, so we can do that. And I thank the members of that committee from all parties who were on it. So I was there for, I was gave evidence in the morning, but also stuck around for most of the day as well to hear. I think when we saw we heard the residents and the residents groups and local people that had come in and heard some of their testimonies, it was really heartfelt. I know it moved committee members and people like me in the audience. So it's just indicates the suffering that's gone on and still going on, and why we need to really focus on this. I think you're quite right, Councillor Adcock. We need to hold the people to account that have led this, and that one is the operation, of course, first and foremost, but also the really poor regulatory operation that the Environment Agency had been running for many, many years. We could go through it all again. We went through it all on Tuesday. I think what I'd like to see at the end of this, there's enough evidence being put in here by all parties to show that that there are failings by the end. We need to capture all that in the family report and see how we can use that as a tool with government for our MP to use as well in his fight, which I agree with Councillor. It's really good to see that Adam Jogee's taken up where Aaron Bell left off. And also, I think it's really important that we look at ways of, trying to get that proper public inquiry. I don't want to see it until, later, and when people have had serious health problems of this in many years, all come to light. We need to, one, try and resolve it now for our people, but also ensure that this doesn't happen anywhere else. And there's been a long lead-in period to this where many mistakes were made, and that's coming out of the inquiry yesterday. I'm sure we'll do it the next one on 14th of August. And we must hold those responsible to account.
Thank you, Councillor. We now move to paragraph 3, which is about the Town Deal and Future High Street Fund update. Do members have any comments or questions on paragraph 3? But we'll take them in order. Councillor John Williams.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'd ask the leader to clarify what he said in the last debate, that houses are being built on Rycroft. He mentioned homes, apartments, but he also mentioned my own houses. The first to actually reveal about that was to agree with what we told. The apartments we built on the right of plus that hotel and the car park. Thank you.
Thank you, councillor Williams. Councillor Stubbs.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Two questions, if I may, Mr. Mayor, but I'll obviously back to yourself. Can I quickly welcome Councillor Tagg to a very exclusive club of elected members in this chamber that have failed to win an election in the general election. So your ties on the way. We've got matching ties. And without pressing too much on that store spot, can I ask the leader if the newly elected MPs from Newcastle-under-Lyme and Stoke-on-Trent North and Kisgrove have formally been written to invite them to the town boards? If not, why not? And when will this take place? That's question one. And second question, Mr. Mayor. Well,
Okay.
On June 27th, during the Finance Assets and Performance Scrutiny Committee, I challenged the then interim Chief Exec to the lack of physical progress achieved with regard to the Kisgrove Town deal over the last 6 months. I was assured, and this is from the minutes, all the activity had been happening behind the scenes with a resolution being reached and assurance is now in place. We're now reaching the end of July, and the latest update from the leader, again from the report, is a progress report has been received on the development of the shared vault in Kisgrove relating to ground conditions at the preferred site. Does the leader believe this is ample progress? Does he have any news of planning permissions, procurement exercises for contractors, or any intended works in Kisgrove? When can the residents of Kisgrove finally expect to see transport hub, car park, and the shared services hub built? Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, councillor Stubbs. Councillor Paul Waring.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. It might be opportune for me to answer some of Councillor Stubbs' questions for the leader, if I may. The significant progress has been made on the shared service, so it's been granted planning permission. I believe the tender documents are in the process of being prepared at the moment, and the delay was solely down to an insurance issue in relation to the mining works that may have taken place in historically. The railway station obviously is also progressing, and I think that they're at a stage now where they're looking to also prepare tender documents, etc. While I'm just talking, we have an open day on Saturday, the 27th of July, i.e. this coming Saturday at Kisgrove Town Hall between 9 and 2 p.m. We'll have representatives from the Canal and River Trust and East Midlands Railways, and we'll also have plans for various different buildings and so on. But the most important reason for this, and we've actually brought on or tried to involve as many of the local business owners, is that we're actually looking at a number of changes, admittedly not huge changes, but changes to the road network in the central Kisgrove to enable a more efficient passage of traffic through Kisgrove. We've been working on this for about 18 months now with the county council, and we're in a position, following various traffic studies and so on, to actually share with the public what we believe is technically feasible, and we're looking for feedback. So if anybody knows anybody who has a business in the middle of Kisgrove, we have tried to inform people, but that's 9 till 2 p.m. on Saturday. So if anybody can come, then that's great. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Waring. Councillor Tagg, would you like to respond?
Yes, thank you for those three questions. I think the houses on Rycroft, as I said in the previous segments, are going to be delivered, hopefully with spire housing, and the social elements of those is key. I believe that they've already been sort of on the report that the Executive Director, Simon Mack, gives to the Scrutiny Committee as well. So and more will come on that, I think, and you can be quite sure that there will be houses. And they will be, I think it's houses used to be on that site many years ago, didn't they? And we're going to return to, that, and also you see some on that site for us to obviously comply with the local plan we just sending out to consultation. Secondly, Councillor Stubbs, I was going to invite them when they come to see me, which they are going to come to see. I've seen Adam Jogi on Friday. I was wanting to give them all just copy. just so you can actually have, a place on the board. I was going, but and also I've yet to sort of get a meeting in the diary with Mr. Williams for Stoke North, but I will do. That's fine, and I'll ensure that they have their place on the board, which they're entitled to. Hopefully, they'll input as much as the previous MPs did, particularly on trying to get rid of some of those log jams we have with government, and particularly on the groundworks for the station and the shared hub, which Paul, as Warren has talked about, will need some support. I think getting rid of the log jams, as they say. But I think really when council sort of talks about delays to the town deal in Kidsgrove and no updates or whatever, I think one of the first major schemes was delivered on time, on budget, very quickly, which is the opening of Kidsgrove Sports Centre. I won't go into the history of that because I know it's a sore point for council subs, but I would say though on having ties, and I'm sure he'll be pleased because I know his feelings for the previous MP in your area, whether you'll deliver him a tie as an MP loser as well, but that's another matter. Item question 3, but it was a comment, wasn't it, from Paul? But I endorse everything he says and welcome the town council being the lead body on the hub, and wish your success, and we'll support it here from the Borough Council and make sure it happens.
Thank you. And Councillor Lewis, you want to say something?
Yeah, I've just got a question in regards to the progression of the new market stalls. I do note that initially there was quite a lot of progress being made, and then all of a sudden it seems to have slowed down. I wondered if we had any kind of time frame for that to be completed and almost, I guess, opened, and is there any plans for it to have a special opening or anything like that? Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Parker?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. It seems to be regular for me at these council meetings to ask your comments on the town deal with future high street funds. So I'd just like to say that I'm impressed with the speed that the Newcastle car park is being built, along with McCarthy and Stone acquiring part of the site for accommodation. It is good to see such progress being made on the Rycroft, and this is delivering on the future high street fund and town deal funding provided by the previous Conservative government. Does the leader agree with me that it is important that the new Labour government honour the last government's commitment to provide more funding, further funding to enable levelling up to continue?
Thank you, Councillor Parker. Finally, Councillor Wilden.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Could I just say that I'm absolutely delighted to see that development of the new Keele University space in the town centre. As a mother of 2 young men who went to Keele but had to travel in daily from Cheshire at the time because there was insufficient student accommodation. They couldn't have it on Keele campus because to get into town is quite difficult before the bus service was half decent and set up. So to have such a centre, it means that our town centre will be vibrant with young people and give a better balance age-wise. And of course, they will spend money there and it will lift the whole town centre up. So thank you for that. It's only a snippet in that paragraph, but it means the world to a lot of people who are studying.
Thank you, Councillor Wilden. Councillor Tech?
Yes, thank you for those 3 questions. On the market renovation, thank you, Councillor Lewis, for that. I think what we're waiting for, is sort of the planters and that to arrive to do the middle bit. But I think the long-term plan, which you will see, is that there's going to be pitches marked out for when the temporary market stalls are put up for the bigger markets. I was down to see the artisan market on Sunday and saw some of the new pop-up stalls, which were really, really good, look really classy. So once they're up there, that will extend the market on market days. But when there's no market, we can take them down, and that can be public space. And the bottom end is going to be potential entertainment space. Imagine if it was Euro World Cup 26 when England are through to the final. Perhaps we're looking to get a digital screen there in by then, so we'll be able to have events and stuff down there. So pushing that on, so getting through to the World Cup final. But and the other thing is nipper parking will also be down there as well for people to come and park and nip into town as well. So we try and utilise that space as much as possible. But it is still a market area, and it will still be there for when such things as the Artisan and Makers Market and others need to extend down there, and we'll put the temporary stalls up for them. On the next item, which was the Councillor Parker, completely agree with you, because in the election the government did announce 100 towns that were going to get more levelling up funding. Of course, Newcastle was in with those, and we expect the new government to honour that. And we on this side will be making sure that we do make that case, because this money that's come for the future high street fund and town deal, we're beginning to see the results of that now. We've already seen some results, like up in Kidsgrove, the town it made the Kidsgrove Sports Centre the last piece of jigsaw. That was that funding in there to able to open it for that excellent facility we've got there now. So I think we should keep that money coming. We haven't had much over many years, but in the past, since 2019, over 55 million for the borough as a whole, and we must keep that coming, because we can use that money under local decisions we're taking to regenerate our towns, both Kidsgrove and Newcastle, and also just up in Nottingham and Chesterton as well, with the plans we've got for there as well. And then lastly, Joe, yes, welcome that. Really got us up there this week with one of the business operator managers from Kiel. They're really keen to get that open by the autumn and have their presence in town, which will be open to everybody as well. It won't just be for students, it'll also be for people to go and there'll be a cafe there studying and training and all sorts of things. So we're looking forward to that opening, really bringing that lovely building in the Iron Marquee back into use. It's been closed for a few years.
Thank you, Councillor Tack. Members, paragraph 4 is about the sustainable environment update. Do members have any comments or questions on paragraph 4? They should have marked it. That's only the 3 minutes. Yeah. Yes. Okay, the first 3, taking the first one, Councillor Fox-Hewitt.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Since the introduction of the new piloted grassland management strategy, I have seen a number of issues within my ward, such as Redwell Crematory Field, Woodcroft Close, and a number of alleyways on Riceman Road, whereby the grass has been cut for in excess of 30 years, is no longer being cut. And that's led to quite a large number of complaints from residents to both myself and to the portfolio holder, who I would like to place on record my thanks for his visit to my ward and accompanying me and taking a look at the issue. That I most appreciate. The question is, can the leader consider placing the strategy in abeyance and cut the grass that has always been cut, and then undertake resident and member consultations before any decision to recommend with the policy in my ward? Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Fox-Hewitt. Next one, Councillor Parker.
Thank you again, Mr. Mayor. As a resident of Clayton, I use Lyme Valley Parkway, and everybody knows that the Lyme Valley Parkway is one of the jewels of the Borough. And it is great to see that there's been awarded a green flag along with the 5 other sites. Could the portfolio holder pass on the thanks, and I'm sure all members of this chamber would agree with me, so thanks to the staff for their hard work in maintaining our wonderful green spaces. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Parker. Councillor Plunkett.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor. Following our purchase of our new grass mowers, a member of staff in the department has informed me that we have purchased these mowers a lot cheaper than what was recommended, and also that we've currently got several unavailable to use due to damage. Can the portfolio hold please update us if this is the case, and if this is true?
Thank you, Councillor Tack.
I'll pass the 3 questions to Councillor Hutchins.
Yeah, I'd like to thank the councillors for their questions. Councillor Fox-Hewitt. Yeah, the grasslands management strategy. At a recent meeting of the Newcastle-under-Lyme Borough Council, at the a recent Association of Public Service Excellence, which is a not-for-profit incorporated association working with over 300 councils throughout the UK, promoting excellence in public services. The APSE is the foremost specialist in local authority frontline services, fostering a network for frontline service providers in areas such as waste and refuse collection, parks and environmental services, cemeteries and crematorium, environmental health, leisure, school, meals, cleaning, housing, and building maintenance. At a recent meeting of the APSE, Newcastle-under-Lyme Borough Council team did a presentation to up to 300 councils on our grassland management strategy and plan. This was very well received, and many council officers from all councils congratulated the team on the plan. The plan is in phase 1 at the moment. This will run for 2 years. Then there will be a review and a consultation phase where the Borough Council will conduct a review and consultation to identify and report on the social and environmental impacts of the grassland programme. It proved to benefit biodiversity and improve residents' views on wildlife in public places. Then phase 3 in the parks and the grassland spaces may begin. Regarding the area in the field in Bradwell, I did meet with Councillor Fox here. I've since been corresponding by email to some residents that have contacted me, and they wanted some of the grass to be cut, which I have now organised with the officers. We cleared a section at the top, a section in the middle, and the section at the bottom to facilitate ball games, which is excellent. I've been in communication with the residents, and the residents have thanked me, and they're a lot happier on how things look. Regarding the Lyme Valley Parkway, the 6 green spaces in the Borough are Green Flag Award winners for 2024. Bradwell Crematorium, Brampton Park, Hill Cemetery, Lyme Valley Park, Queen's Gardens and Low Stanton Park. The Green Flag Award winners were judged by mystery shoppers, so it's not like Blitzen and Bloom where someone comes on a particular day and then they're shown around. These were mystery shoppers whose assessment includes how welcoming the site is, cleanliness, safety and environment diversity, community involvement, marketing communication and overall management. Given the central part of what we do is provide clean, attractive and welcoming spaces for people to use, visit and enjoy, I'm delighted that 6 of the sites, including the Lyme Valley, should win such an important award. Staff work hard day to day on the upkeep and maintenance of these sites, as well as looking ahead to plan diverse planting and make the sites attractive to insects and pollinators. And I think it's excellent that we won those, we got those awards. Now, regarding the urban grass cutting, yes, due to the short notice of awards in the urban grass cutting contract, a rapid recruitment process was undertaken to recruit seasonal and permanent staff aligned to the contract and to accommodate internal staff movements within the street scene. In addition to staffing resources, additional plant and equipment was identified to be able to deliver the contract efficiently and to the required standards. Anticipated ride-on mowers were not delivered and available for road use until the 18th of June, despite officers' best attempts with regular liaison with the suppliers. Up until this date, the contract was delivered with older and therefore less reliable machinery, resulting in increased unavailability. No other supplier was able to provide short-term rentals of alternative plant, while the purchased machines were unavailable to us. During April and May, the region experienced substantial higher than average rainfall, which impacted the delivery and have been able to cut grass during heavy rainfall, in addition to the climate conditions promoting rapid grass growth. For several weeks, available resources were unable to be deployed effectively due to extended heavy rainfall. This was clearly experienced by adjacent local and regional authority areas and experienced by other large local landowners such as Aspire Housing, where long grass was evident for several weeks. Commencement of the contract started on the 5th of March 2024, and delivery at the frequency of grass cutting as required in challenging heavy wet conditions for the large part during March and April, and then the rapid grass growth in May and June and the heavy rainfall, saturated ground conditions, long grass. The grass cutting was considerably slower than would usually be the case. coupled with increased needs for swimming event obstacles.
Councillor Hutchinson, can you wind up,
No,
please?
I'm very sorry. Yeah, there were challenges. We did have challenges. We tried to rise to them. Temporary seasonal staff, temporary Saturday working, temporary realigning of some staff resources. On the 22nd of July, we have now started the 5th cup. We're roughly 1 week behind schedule.
Yeah. Thank you. We've got some extra speakers on this paragraph. So Councillor Rees.
Just a point about the grass cutting strategy and concerns raised by residents, specifically around the grass cutting that took place by Port Hill Church and the bus stop there, and about the kind of the mess with grass left all over the pavement and the road.
Thank you. Councillor Stubbs.
Yes, please, Mr. Mayor. Mr. Mayor, I've received correspondence today, in fact, from Kitchener Lads and Dads and also Staffordshire Lads and Dads. A week ago, Kitchener Lads and Dads approached the council to request a meeting with regard to grass cutting at Birching Wood. Now, obviously, the lease means that they cut the pitches, but part of their grants that they get from Football Foundation, the pitches have to be of a certain quality, and due to the grass not being cut around the bowl, it's now there's a genuine risk that Kitchener Lads and Dads are going to lose their grants, and therefore will have to stop using Birching Wood. This email was sent a week ago. A follow-up email was sent by the chair of Staffordshire Lads and Dads 3 days ago, and they've yet to hear from officers with regard to this. Can I seek the leader or indeed the portfolio holders assurance that this will be dealt with in a speedy manner, please? Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor John Williams.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'd like to invite the portfolio holder to two areas in the Cross East that I represent. One is on Douglas Road, which is made up of bungalows overlooking a green, grass green area with trees that we've had planted over the years and rails put down to stop the travellers from getting on that field. So a lot of work has gone in there, not money from the council, money from other funds. Part of it is open grass, where children from the community centre have put in plants and made other improvements to that area. Plus a pathway to Norwich to the supermarket and the clinic, doctors, clinic and chemist. That grass now is 2 foot high. So it's completely destroyed the whole of the urban environment. I appreciate the point that you're making on the wildlife in certain areas. Between renovations. One particular area is down in Silverdale, where you've got trees in there, you've got wildlife around that. And I can understand that point, but where people are overlooking these kind of green areas that actually look a mess. And when you do cut the grass, it'll be, as you mentioned, just be left on the surface, and it will be absolutely appalling. The other point is Rising Avenue, where the workmen have been up there and they made a complete mess of it. They haven't trimmed the bits of it, and I've reported this to the council's website, but I've heard nothing since. But I'll follow on. So I'd like to invite the portfolio to come down and have a look and give you a better idea of actually what our residents are putting up with on this grass cutting policy. Thank you.
Thank you, Williams. Councillor Williams. Councillor Tagg, you wish to respond?
I'm sure Councillor Hutchins was writing profusely there those things down. I think on the just the last question of the previous session from Councillor Bucket, I think we can get our officer to talk to about it. I don't think it's actually as it was described by whatever member of staff. So I think we need to get to the bottom of that one. The other couple of points, I think, obviously that lads and dads issue, I think we need to take that up pretty urgently as well. I would ask Davey to do that, and officers will report back to Councillor Stubbs and the other local members as well. And that's the crossing. I think we have a balancing act here, don't we? And what may look a mess is also very good for wildlife, but also we need to have tidy edges and pathways. And I've Sandy Lane, for example, I believe it's not looking as it really should. I've already said to David, I've always said to our officers that we need to review it. And this comes back to that. It's my first question from Councillor Botchute reviewing this, and I've asked that David and the officers bring something to informal cabinets initially on the review, and we could actually have a look at scrutiny as well, rather than leaving it for the full 2 years. Let's have a review over 1 year, and let's just tweak it, make changes, and I'm sure we can do. And as David said in his response to you, we've already done that on that individual case, but I think there are others as well. This is a new policy, it's a new way forward, isn't it? And we've got to get it right, but also let's see the benefits of it. It's not about leaving grass long and leaving it untidy. It's about promoting wildlife and bringing back nature and helping everybody's health who lives around that green space as well. So thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Tate. We've got some more questions. Again, the first one comes from Councillor Lewis.
Thank you. Part of my question has been answered, so I won't ask that bit. But specifically about Albury St James Church, it's maintained by volunteers now, and specifically there's been concerns raised over the war graves and the grass cutting to be able to access those. I have been asked by the parish council and members of that voluntary organisation to find out why the grass cutting has lapsed from the council to be able to access those. It is noted within the church grounds that it's now unsafe and unsteady ground for council workers to actually do the grass cutting. So I just wanted that clarifying by the portfolio holder if possible, so I can just go back to those in the community. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Lewis. Thank you, Lewis. Councillor David Jones.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I have 2 green patches at the bottom of Church Bank in Keele that when they were cut, a significant amount of cuttings was deposited in the highway, which then proved to be a bit of a safety issue with kids walking back and forth to Henry School. These cuttings also accumulated around the drainage grids, which at one point blocked those grids until myself and a number of residents created that blockage. Wonder if the cabinet member can assure me that in future grass cuts, none of the grass cuttings will be left within the highway and will be cleared away in some way or fashion.
Thank you.
Yes, thank you. I think I believe what Councillor Lewis talking about is a closed churchyard, isn't it? So that is for responsibility. I don't know the details. I'm sure David doesn't offhand, but we can certainly get information on that. I think that does create issues with closed churchyards too. We've had these over a number of years, and nothing to do with this policy now. I think historically, I remember you've gone now, but Councillor Brooks was getting some sheep into one of the closed churchyards in Orley, maybe the same one.
Yeah,
the grass back, of course. Naturally, which is a natural way to do. So these are not new problems, but we need to sort it out and get you a response and give it back to residents. And then cutting and Keele, I think we've all experienced that. Actually, it's been as David said right at the beginning, almost a countrywide problem with the weather we had in the spring and the massive growth and in grass. We saw it grow within a couple of weeks, probably more than we've seen it grow in other sort of spring times. And I'm happy to say we're all caught up now with the grass cutting, and I think it will be kept much shorter, therefore not having that a lot of long grass. And I think what Andrew Bird, our officer here, was committed to do is ensure that we do get that blowing and to blow it away back onto the grass, so we don't have it going into the gutters, into the grids, blocking the grids. And we saw some over the last couple of months, some people on social media posting photos about it, and I think David and the team with the officers are trying to ensure that doesn't happen in the future. But I also know there's a big story in Stafford about that as well, so it's not just a Newcastle Borough Council problem. Stafford Borough Council have had the same issues as well. So I think we have to learn from that this year and now taking the grass cutting back for next year and ensure we don't have those problems again.
Thank you, Councillor Tate. There's no further speakers. We can come on to paragraph 5, which is about the borough tree planting strategy, phase 6. Do members have any comments or questions on paragraph 5? Yeah. Yeah, please.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. A number of trees were lost in Nottingham
during the extreme weather event earlier in the year near Acacia Avenue, notably the tree at the junction of Acacia Avenue and Church Lane, and a number of trees at the junction of Acacia Avenue and Church View. I wondered if there were any plans to replace those trees which were felled. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Bill Williams.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Now, I do applaud all the trees being planted, but could the leader inform me if trees being damaged by the rejection to use tractor mower now planting up the grass verges in our areas? Will they be replaced? Because I've got at least one, and also the tractor ploughing down all the plastic bollards that's supposed to be protecting the verges and trees. I'll be replacing those as well.
Thank you. And Councillor Stubbs.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. In May 2012, I was elected to Council for Talk, mostly on a campaign to protect the open space on Pulpit Hill from housing. So there was no one happier than me when the area was picked to receive environmental support via the Borough tree planting scheme. Will the leader therefore be frustrated as I am? Around 2/3 of those trees may well be lost in the sea of dock leaves, which has taken hold on Pulpit Hill. And it can only be described as a calamitous experiment from this area's point of view. Can you guarantee that the dock leaf infestation will be removed and the trees be saved, this restoring one of the main entry points into the borough back to its former glory? Thank you.
Thank you. We have 3 questions there, Councillor Simon Taggart.
I'll hold the 2 to answer those.
Yeah. Thank you.
Yeah, as I said earlier, there were challenges with the weather. Moving forward from now, we are going for quality, so that you will see a change in the grass cutting. So we have the Acacia Avenue, Church View. If they're highway trees, then they're probably covered by the county council. They're not borough owned trees. I'm happy to meet with the individual member to establish whether they're borough owned trees or whether they're highway trees in the county. Any borough trees being damaged, they will be replaced where appropriate during the planting season, which is October through to March. Regarding the open space that Councillor Stubbs mentioned, I'm not aware of the overgrown dock leaves, but I will be speaking with the officers and I will be seeing about getting them removed and getting the area restored. Regarding the Audley ward rates from Councillor Lewis, I was made aware of this with Councillor Chris earlier this week, and I've asked the officers on Tuesday to investigate, and I'm still waiting on them coming back to me. So as soon as they come back to me to let me know what's happening in that area, I will update Councillor Chris and I'll update Councillor Lewis. Thank you.
Thank you. We have another question to Councillor Holland.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Very warmly welcome Phase 6 of the Borough tree planting strategy. As councillor for the Westlands Ward, I made very few promises over the years to my residents, and one of them was that I would protect and defend the green open spaces of the Westlands, including 3 such sites included in previous rounds of the Borough tree planting strategy. I hope now that the public gallery is clear that the Labour group will acknowledge, even if it's only to themselves, that were they in the majority on this council, they would have promulgated a draft local plan very similar to the one that we have produced, or potentially with more development. Not with less, not with different, very much the same, but the same or more. Okay, perhaps they won't. My question for the leader, in the context of the Lyme Forest, which has been included in his statement, 19,000 trees in total, fantastic. Brilliant. Can I receive some reassurance that with the backing of an adopted local plan, that the designation of carbon capture zones and the planting of trees will be an effective protection for the green spaces in my ward and those listed on the leader's statement from a government that may in future wish to see the compulsory sale of assets by local authorities in order to meet new housing and development targets, particularly in the context of the Lyme Forest, because as we've already heard, the strategic removal of greenbelt sites is not just a suggestion, it is a headline manifesto policy of the new government. Thank you.
Councillor Craig?
Yeah, no, I completely agree with Councillor Holland and his statement there. And also, Councillor Stubb, when you mentioned the landing talk, which I know very well. Obviously, that in the local plan, we just agreed to that consultation. Part of the policy on that is to protect those areas, those carbon capture areas for the future. So that gives them that sort of planning basis as well. Also, they're borough owned, of course, so it's the decision of this council. As I said in my speech earlier, many of those 60 sites in the past have been out to be in the local plan. There's been packed public galleries from Chesterton, from Sheldon Grove, from Sandy Lane, from other areas in the past. So we just have a different selection of people here tonight concerned about their open space. But that open space is nothing to do with the Borough Council. That's private land that's been put forward by others, not by this Borough Council. So I think all I can say to Councillor Holland is we'll protect those areas as much as we can, and we'll campaign to protect them as we have done previously if any government comes hunting for them. But I think through the policies we in our local plan, if it's adopted, we've got protection, and through our decisions to nominate them for carbon capture areas to get to where we want to go in 2030, we're going to have offset of carbon in those trees that are being planted in future years, and we need to protect that, which should hopefully it's another consideration when you look at land. It's not all about what money you can get from it, what housing you can get from it. It's what you can get environmental improvements for the whole area from it too.
Thank you, Councillor Tagg. Members, paragraph 6 about the crematorium and cemeteries rules and regulations update. Do members have any comments or questions on paragraph 6? Okay, that's a nice here. If there's no comments or questions, we'll go on to paragraph 7, which is about the Statutory Leaders Board. Do members have any comments or questions on paragraph 7? Councillor Holland.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I should try to be brief and also fair on the Labour Party. So the leader is telling us tonight that Stoke-on-Trent will seek to join the Leaders Board. I like to imagine that an unprecedented fifth-term Conservative government would eventually have gotten around to contacting local leaders to invite further applications for greater devolution. But the Labour government we've got certainly has. I think as one of their earliest decisions was to write to local leaders, I assume including ours and the leader of Stoke-on-Trent City. Can the leader of our council reassure us that as part of that Leaders Board, if Stoke-on-Trent City Council is going to be represented, that the Leaders Board will work constructively as a partnership of equals to secure greater devolution and more influence, more investment for our districts, and will emphatically reject and resist any imposition of a directly elected mayor or a similar devolution type that would privilege the city next door to us over us and our proud 851-year-old loyal and ancient borough. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
If there's no other speakers, Councillor Tagg.
I confirm that would be the case. I think I really welcome those Stoke City Council being involved in the Leaders Board. It's the board of equals, obviously. There are different powers, different councils, but a board of equals with all the districts across this county, Moorlands included, Stafford in the north with us. And I think if we are in the previous government, they were looking for a future bid to come in from groups of councils. And I just hope that the same as we were moving with Mr. Gove was that it was based on what local need and what local people, no structure would be imposed. I just hope that that's the case. I'm just concerned the way the letter did come out. It was only sent to upper tier authorities. It wasn't sent to district leaders like myself. So the leader of the county council and the leader of the city council got this letter to invite offers for devolution or bids for devolution. The districts were left out. So that's a bad start in my book. I think we just need to be aware of that because, and then if there is imposition from there, I think we've been in North Staffordshire, even though it's only a city mayor, down the route of elected mayors, which was a complete utter disaster. We don't want to go back down there. With the Leaders Board, we have a structure there that could manage devolution of powers and devolution of money, and that will be a partnership between the county, the city, and the districts to enable us to get where we want to be, whether it's on education skills, whether it's on transport. We certainly need transport cooperation in the north of the county, as they do in the south of the county. We have a north and a south version of that within a county-wide Stoke Leaders Board. So I think there's plenty of, if we leave it to us to put a bid in that fits our local area and its constituent councils, I think it's all well and good, but if they start to impose, we will resist. We don't want to see ultimately a North Staffordshire authority, we see Newcastle and then all of course submerged into the city, which you wouldn't want to be. About 851-year history would then abruptly come to an end. You don't want that to happen.
Thank you, Councillor Tagg. If there's no other speakers on that paragraph, we'll move to paragraph 8, which is about the delivery of the electric vehicle charging through the County Council's local government electric vehicle infrastructure funding. Oh, what a mouthful. Do members have any comments or questions on paragraph 8? Councillor Chris.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. It's very good to see all these new charging points coming to the borough. In the portfolio, Alder, tell me, how many are you getting in the new Newcastle car park?
Any other speakers? Councillor Hutchinson.
Yeah, I would just like to echo Councillor Chris. I think it's fantastic news that we're putting electric charging points in the Newcastle car parks, which is great news. I'd just like to small update to members. We've now put another 7 charging points down in the Notting Lane depot. So we've now got more electrical vehicles there, and we've now got really comprehensive charging stations where a number of vehicles can be set up at a time. They do fast charging, and they'll charge one in an hour, then do the next vehicle, then do the next vehicle in succession, which is great news.
Thank you, Councillor Hutchinson. Any other speakers? Councillor Tagg.
Councillor Sweeney.
Councillor Sweeney.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and thank you, Councillor Chris. The figure you're looking for is actually 22 places in the Newcastle car park, and it's a double bonus really, because of course when you're sitting having your car charge, you're in the town centre doing something, aren't you? You might be spending some money in shops, you might be going having a cup of tea or something. So it's a win-win for the council really. It's, at the moment, it's 22 places in the new car park. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Sweeney. In the lack of any further speakers on that, we'll move to paragraph 9, which is about the award of short form service contracts to a consortium of architectural service providers relating to disabled facilities grants. Do members have any comments or questions on this? No? Excellent. We'll move on to paragraph 10, which is about the forward plan. Do members have any comments or questions on the forward plan? Well, that includes the comments on the latest statement. Thank you very much. And we'll move on to the next item of business. Find it. I wish to reports by the chairs of the scrutiny committees. This is agenda item 8, which is on pages 9 of your supplementary. Oh, I do apologise. On your supplementary agenda, reports are attached for the Health, Wellbeing and Environment Scrutiny Committees, the Economy and Place Scrutiny Committee, and the Finance Assets and Performance Scrutiny Committee. These reports are here for information and noting. Can they be received, please? Thank you. We move on to item 9, which is reports of the chairs of the regulatory committees. This list of reports can be found on pages 11 to 14 of your agenda. Written reports are attached for the Audit and Standards Committee, the Licensing and Public Protection Committee, and the Planning Committees. These are here for your information and noting. Can they be accepted? Thank you. Towards the end. Agenda item 10 is members' questions. I have received 2 questions for the leader and the cabinet members. These can be found on page 15 of your supplementary agenda and will also be shown on the screens. I'll ask the leader or the relevant cabinet member to respond to the question as shown, after which I will ask the member who submitted the question if they have a supplementary question. To remind members that if they have a supplementary question, it must be a question and not a statement. It must also be concise, focused and related to the subject matter of the initial question and answer. The first question is from Councillor Jacqueline Brown regarding the draft borough local plan and is on the screen, or should be.
Why wasn't this question put up on the screen earlier? We have not had time to read the question.
Councillor Holland, don't fear, I can read it out for you.
Perhaps Councillor may have to answer.
Can I go ahead?
If you can assist, that would be most helpful. Thank you.
Because I do my job properly, I submitted this question on Monday morning. Having attended a meeting on Wednesday, the 17th of July at Spindale Working Men's Club, organised by the Acres Allotments Association, Would the Borough Council explain the reasoning behind the selection of Traveller and Gypsy Site 8, T and G 8 in the amendment to draft Borough Local Plan 2024 as submitted to the Special Economy and Place Scrutiny Committee on the 11th of July as apparently suitable for a traveller and gypsy site for 5 pigeons?
Thank you, councillor Fear.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. There is a written reply to this question, which I was hoping was going to be projected on the screen, and alas, it appears not to be. I'm more than happy to supply a written answer to the councillor, and can only say I'm awfully sorry. I genuinely thought that both the question and the answer that I asked for giving the details of this will be projected this evening.
Okay, thank you, councillor Fear. Councillor Brown, do you have a supplementary question?
Yes, that question was submitted on the Monday morning. On the Monday afternoon, a site-specific selection report was downloaded onto the council website, which I have some sight of here, and it mentions some of the reasons why the site was selected, but it talks about there are issues with transport, accessibility, natural resources, waste, health and well-being issues. So in view of that, my residents and I were very surprised that this has been selected. So we would appreciate a full answer to my question, please.
I can certainly assure the council that she will receive such an answer. What I would say is that this site has been, again, the product of a long and rigorous look at a large number of sites across the borough. I also point out that what we're required to do is look at projected future need for the travelling community. Now, it is projected forward need, so it is quite possible, in fact, that this need will not emerge. In other words, we're sort of saying at the moment, given the current trajectory, it's likely to be like this. That in turn means that this site would not be developed in the immediate future. And that in turn means that if these problems present themselves, there will be time for a useful resolution of them. But I can assure the council that she will receive a written answer in due course. And again, I apologise for it not popping up there. I sincerely thought it would do.
Thank you, councillor.
Thank you, councillor Fear. The final question is from councillor Richard Gordon regarding littering and is also supposed to be on the screen. But it's not. Councillor Gordon.
Would you like me to read it out, Mr. Mayor? Try my best. To the portfolio holder for sustainable environment, will the portfolio holder confirm any abandoned waste bins and other miscellaneous discarded items currently littering part of Orchard Street, Woodstanton, will be removed? Despite requests from Woodstanton councillors last month and assurances by Street Scene that the bins and rubbish will be removed.
Councillor Gordon, can you use your microphone?
Oh, I do. As at the 23rd of July, I'd like to be precise, no action appears to have been taken. And all I'd like is an answer to say that the rubbish has been removed.
Excuse me.
Thank you, councillor Gordon. I'll try to be brief. The neighbourhood delivery team are aware of the ongoing issues with discarded rubbish and bins being left at Orchard Street in Woolstanton. It is believed that the area in question is privately owned, which would mean that the landlords are responsible for keeping tidy and removing the waste. However, as a gesture of goodwill, the neighbourhood ranger has been periodically visiting the site and clearing away what he can. Also, engagement has begun with residents to raise awareness of their individual responsibilities in relation to presenting their domestic bins and returning them to their properties after collection. If this problem persists, the neighbourhood delivery team will consider enforcement action if appropriate, but hopefully the majority of residents will want to do their bit and keep the area clean and tidy.
Thank you, councillor. Councillor Gordon, you have a supplementary.
Very brief on Mr. Mayor. Reassured by the this answer, but it's not just the bins. There's also a lot of miscellaneous rubbish up there. Will that be cleared?
Councillor Hutchinson.
I will pass the comments on to the officers tomorrow and arrange for the neighbourhood delivery team and the neighbourhood ranger to visit. Like I said, if it is a privately owned area, then we may have difficulty. We may then even need to look at something like the Anti-Social Behaviour Crime and Policing Act and do a community protection warning against the landlord. But that's something that we can probably look at. But I will get someone to visit and try and see that the area is clear and then to move forward.
Thank you, councillor Hutchinson. Move on to agenda item 11, which is receipt of petitions. There have been no petitions handed in this evening. Therefore, we're on to items 12 and 13, which relates to urgent and confidential business. There's been no urgent or confidential business that needs to be considered this evening. That therefore concludes the business of this meeting. And before I declare this meeting closed, I'd like to thank you for bearing with me on my first full council meeting. It's not easy. I hope I will learn. No doubt I'll be told if I've gone wrong. But thank you for putting up with me. And I hope we will have a better meeting next time. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. This meeting is adjourned.
All right, please.